I gave you two, and I gave you two of those.
But no, I'm getting a set. My credit was 15. Well, the credit's a 15. Now you get a set. Something's something. What is $26? Certain amount, not it's not all of them.
Let's bring order in the chamber. Let's bow our heads. Our most precious Heavenly Father, be with us tonight as we're doing the business for the town of Benson and for the citizens of Benson and surrounding areas. We know that you have a plan for us, and we know that you'll be with us as we deliberate on the items that we have on the agenda tonight. Bless the people that are here, and we thank them for being here and being a part of our legislative process. And be with us, take us home safely as we leave here, but let's always remember that we do all this in your name. In your name we pray. Amen. Let's stand and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Public comments. I'm going to ask Kenneth, the former chief of police, Kenneth Edwards, to come forward. I think everybody remembers Kenneth, and he spent a number of years here as chief of police, and he does come back occasionally to see us, but I know he's enjoying retirement, and he tells us how hard he's working, but I talked to his wife tonight, so. Thank you. Resolution 216, 2021. Declaring the badge and the service weapon carried by Chief Kenneth Edwards surplus and awarding them to him on his retirement. Whereas Kenneth Edwards served as a member of the Town of Benson Police Department for a period of 24 years, and of that approximately 19 years as Chief of Police, and retired from the Town of Benson Police Department on March the 31st, 2020. Whereas North Carolina General Statute 20-187.2 authorizes governing bodies of law enforcement agencies to award to the retired member the badge worn by him as well as his service weapon. Glock 9mm caliber, model 24, serial number AMT 999, and now therefore be it resolved by the Town of Benson Board of Commissioners that the badge and the service weapon, serial number AMT 999, carried by Chief Edwards, be declared surplus and awarded to him on the occasion of his retirement. And be it further resolved that we extend our sincere appreciation to Chief Edwards for dedicated service rendered by him during his employment with the Town of Benson. Adopted this 8th day of June, 2021. Jerry Medlin, Mayor, Angie Turner, Town Clerk. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And good luck to you. Say anything you want to make it nice.
First of all, I want to say thank you. Obviously, I raised and fed a family out of Town of Benson for a long period of time, and I've had some tremendous opportunities to learn and grow with a large number of staff. Keith Lehman gave me an opportunity under, at that time, Mayor Don Johnson. And I think about 30 minutes after the name, they were worried that they'd made the right decision. But anyway, we all grew together. I had the good fortune of working in a time when we have really good relationships with the media. Mike and I have sat and many times discussed anything you can think of. And he was always kind to me, and I appreciate that. That opportunity to work with some tremendous businesses, business owners, boards, commissions along the way. And, you know, when I made the decision to retire, Mr. Fred taking over, and again, I can't tell you how much of a pleasure it was to work with him. I just felt like it was time, and I remained on the auxiliary because I feel like it's his family. And for many years, for people that don't realize, we spend more time together, just like a lot of you, with people that we work with, more so than we do our families. And they all mean quite a bit to me. It wouldn't be fair if I didn't mention Greg. Greg was beside me pretty much since day one. You know, that's a long time to be the chief of police in a small town. I was very fortunate, very lucky that I had some very forgiving souls to work with, and I do appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm going to recognize Fred Nelson to introduce a new hire.
It's going to be Pounds here tonight. Oh, there you go. Come on. You see the faces of it. Mayor Commissioners, I want to introduce Cody Pounds to you. He joined the town as an electric line technician May 10th of this year. Cody recently graduated from the Nash County Community College Electric Line technician program. And this was his first day here at the town of Benson. He joined us as an apprentice, the Johnson County Line Worker Pre-Apprentice Program during the summer of 2020. In the fall and winter of 2020, he worked with us on a temporary, full-time basis to help provide some needed support for our electric department. And it's my pleasure to welcome him to the town of Benson family. I want to have some words.
Just want to start off saying my name's Cody Pangos, and I'm glad to be employed with the town of Benson, and I'm glad to meet everyone today.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Greg, would you bring the sign-in list up, please? Individuals wishing to address the board are asked to provide their name and address for the record when they come up. So this is public comments, not a public hearing. So anybody that wants to come and speak in favor of something they have on their mind, then come forward. Anybody wishing to speak to the board? We close the public comments. Does the board have any questions of the department reports that you want to clarify? We are now going into the public hearing part of our talk. First of all, I want to ask anybody that has had contact about the cases that's going to come before the board tonight, that they want to identify that that they have had contact, but there's no problem with it. You just want to make a record of it if there has been a contact. Anyone that's requesting to be recused, identify themselves.
I'm going to request to be recused on RZ 2021-08, which is the first hearing due to the quiet nature of the applicant. And on the advice of the town attorney, I'm also going to ask to be recused on SD 2021-01 because of my location of my property and the chance that my opinion may be biased.
Anyone on the board have questions with we? I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we recuse Commissioner Moses.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. You're so recused. We now go into the public hearing. This is the public hearing for RZ 2021-08. Anyone that comes to speak will be sworn in, and they'll be under oath during their talking.
We need to do the public input for the budget and all that first. We just skipped one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Receive public input on 2021-22 fiscal year budget, capital improvement plan, and fee schedule. Any comments from the board? We open the public hearing for public input on 2021-22 fiscal year budget, capital improvement plan, and fee schedule. We now open the public hearing. Anyone wants to speak on public of the board for the budget? You do come forward. No one coming forward. We close the public hearing on 2021-22 fiscal year budget, capital improvement plan and fee schedule. Now we're down to RZ 2021-08. Angie, will you swear in Aaron?
I don't need to be, anyone speaking in this, rezoning does not need to be sworn in, only for the subdivision. Good evening, commissioners and mayor. I'd like to present my staff report to you all for this rezoning request at 916 East Main Street. I think that's the wrong image there on the screen. But we've got the zoning map here. So the location of the site, I'm sorry, that image is not correct. It's located on East Main Street. It's just going south on 50 highway and just past the South Walton and East Main Street intersection. You have to the north of the site, northeast of the site, or northwest of the site, you have Interstate I-95. And to the south, you have South Walton Avenue. Right across from it, there's the Waffle House, the Cookie Mart, and quick stop convenience store and gas station there. So just to give you an idea of where the site is located. It is within our corporate limits of the town. It's this square that's highlighted in purple on the zoning map. I apologize that the aerial is incorrect image. But to request, the applicant and owner, Angela Medidin, would like to request the site from B2 neighborhood business to B3 commercial business. Currently, there are no uses at the site. There is a manufactured home that has been used as office space in the past, but there are no active uses currently. As you can see, the current zoning map, it is B2 neighborhood business. This request is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan as well as the future land use map, which you'll see to your right of the screen, falls just within the activity center 5 of the comprehensive land use plan. And so upon evaluating the site, it is determined that from staff's evaluation that the site is consistent. As I said, it's identified as Activity Center 5, which is the 5095 corridor that allows for expansion of commercial development on that main corridor. Also, the impact to adjacent property owners would be reasonable, as the surrounding area is zoned commercial. You'll see going back west into town, highlighted in the magenta, I guess, color there. That is currently B3 zoning district, and the entire block there that's in green is B2 neighborhood business. So you do have commercial zoning currently surrounding the site, as well as across East Main Street. We have auto service, vehicle service uses, gas station, and there was a market there as well. And to the south of the site, you have the Eastwood subdivision, so you do have residential uses behind the subject property. But it would be compatible with the current zoning and uses in the area. The planning board did review this request last week, and they unanimously voted to recommend approval, as well as staff recommends approval. Some of the some of the uses within the B3 highway commercial district would include childcare center, nursing home, technical trade school, office, and retail. We do have some overlapping uses of the B2 and the B3. The B3 district is geared to serve the community at large, whereas neighborhood business is geared towards the immediate area, immediate adjacent residential uses. But the location is ideal, being that main corridor into and out of town on East Main Street. And so with this request, we will be looking at several approval criteria, the consistency with adopted plans and policies, the suitability of the subject property versus uses permitted by the current versus the proposed district. In your staff report, you do have a table that highlights the current uses versus the proposed uses for that district. And again, this is a general rezoning, so you'll be looking at all the uses that would encompass the B3 district and not just one particular use of the site. And that is pretty much what I have, unless you have any questions for me.
Does anybody have any questions there? Okay, we'll open the public hearing, and anyone that's in favor, come forward. Give us your name and your address.
Hi, my name is Angela Madian, and I am the owner of 916 East Main Street. And I am the daughter of Jackie and Homer Lee, the late Jackie and Homer Lee. And I used to live on the corner there at 916 East Main Street, Eastwood Drive. A lot of you may remember at that time. Property has been zoned B2 for about 20 years or more. And I'm asking to get it rezoned from B2 to B3 to give me more flexibility in renting the property. I'm very particular who what rental business goes in that area, because I have two residential rental properties buffering the back of 916 East Main Street. I would be happy if you would consider changing to B3 from B2 to B3, and I do appreciate all the town has done for the town of Benson. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that wants to come in to speak in favor of the anyone wants to come and speak opposed to RZ 2021-08? Anyone opposed? I close the public hearing. Any discussions from the board? Any questions from the board? I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion we approve this from B2 to B3.
Any other discussion?
Could we, you adopt the statement of consistency.
Board of Commissioners adopts a statement of consistency upon some certification number RZ 2021-08 is consistent with the adopted goals, objectives, and policies of the town of Benson, is reasonable and in public interest, hereby granting approval.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it, passed. Now we're on SD 2021-01. Now we'll swear in and Aaron.
I do.
My name is Erin Joseph, and I reside at 370 Field Spar Lane. Mayor, before we get started, do you want to give any of the board members the opportunity to disclose any ex parte communication?
Well, I got one email and I opened it and saw what it was and I closed it back. So I don't know who it was from or what it was.
No one else?
Anything else?
No.
We already acted on it.
Okay, sounds good. Just wanted to make sure. Got that on record. I have my staff report. If you all like to accept that into the record. Angie, and you have a copy of it already, but if you would like to accept my staff report in the record, but strike the minutes from the planning board, that does not need to be entered into the record for this request. This request is a preliminary plat, for,
You can make
oh, I'm sorry,
Make a
motion to accept my staff report into the record.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Um,
Opposed, no.
Thank you. This request is for a residential, single-family detached subdivision consisting of 95 lots, between 2 lots located just adjacent to the corporate limits. It's about a half a mile south of the intersection of West Main Street and NC Highway 50 South. It abuts South Pine Street, which is in the Pine View subdivision, and also West Rockland Street. The property owners are Don Bird, Dickie Bird, and Dickie and Johnny McLam. Total acreage is 39 acres. As stated, the applicant, ABJ Investments, would like to subdivide those 39 acres into 95 single-family detached lots to be developed. Currently, the site is zoned R11. The properties are currently vacant. They have been used in the past as farmland, pasture land. They don't have any existing uses right now. Zoning R11, single family residential, medium density, which would be about 4 lots per acre, roughly a total of about 156 lots if you just did it mathematically. So few site details. You can draw your attention to the screen. I've highlighted in red there the access points that have been identified per the Unified Development Ordinance. Any subdivision over 75 lots requires 2 access points. So you have 1 access point onto NC Highway 27, West Main Street. At your corner in the bottom right, you have access point at West Rockland Street. And then just adjacent to that, you have a stub street identified. The western boundary of the site there highlighted in blue. There is a blue line stream and the boundaries of a floodplain, so there would be a 50-foot riparian buffer requirement there. The Unified Development Ordinance does require open space to be provided. However, there is the option of paying a fee in lieu for the site, which the applicant has chosen to do. There's an amenity space that has been identified as well for the site that includes the kiosk, mail kiosk, that will require further site plan approval should this request be developed. The applicant has also, as you'll see in green there on the right hand side of the site plan, they've added a Class A buffer, landscape buffer, to to the boundaries of the back of the properties with the existing property owners, just to give that shield from the existing property owners in the new subdivision. Curb and gutter and sidewalks will be provided per the Unified Development Ordinance. So currently, the site is on R11, and that is highlighted. You can see the surrounding zoning is also R11, going back into town, and then going further on NC 27 and green, you have residential agriculture. But predominantly the surrounding zoning is residential R11. This site and request is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan as well as the future land use map. You'll see on your screen there that the future land use map identifies this area suitable for medium density residential, which is our R11 district. And that the comprehensive land use plan also identifies this area within Activity Center 3 as suitable to direct residential growth in the town. Now, this is a evidentiary hearing, and so you will be basing your decision on the findings of fact this evening. The ordinance has 4 findings of fact that you must consider for this case. Consistency with adopted plans and policies. The subdivision meets all required specifications of the chapter. The subdivision will not be detrimental to the use or orderly development of other properties in the surrounding area and will not violate the character of existing standards. And the subdivision will provide for the distribution of traffic in a manner that will avoid or mitigate congestion within the immediate area. Will provide for the unified orderly use of or extension of public infrastructure and will not materially endanger the environment, public health, safety, or the general welfare. Per the technical review, the preliminary plat was reviewed by staff, planning department, fire, the electric department, public works for utilities. We send it out to NCDOT because of the 27 access point to Johnson County for stormwater and sedimentation and erosion, as well as to the superintendent for Johnson County schools. And that is all I have for my staff report.
Mr. Mayor, if I could real quick, if it's appropriate, I think it's useful, definitely important, and make for everybody else, and real quick remind you, you're in a, Aaron said it, the words that you hear, and they bear some explanation. So you're in a quasi-judicial evidentiary hearing. You're sitting like a judge, like a panel of judges. Almost would be good if we watch off some roads to make it seem more realistic. But you're going to base your opinion tonight on those, ultimately on the findings, the factors that Aaron went over. But you're going to base it on the testimony and the evidence that's presented. Staff report's part of that that's been entered. Testimony that the parties are going to offer, all the testimony that's going to come before you that you can validly base your opinion on needs to be based on competent, relevant, substantial evidence. That's why the witnesses have to be sworn in this hearing, unlike the last one you just considered the zoning, which is a legislative decision. So just bear that in mind. You're going to hear probably some testimony that may not be completely relevant. That's understandable, and it's part of the process in hearings like these. But remember, when it comes time to deliberate, you have to have heard enough evidence and seen enough proof, competent evidence tonight in what's before you to make a decision one way or the other. If there's questions about any of that, as folks testify, there may be objections to parties, the applicant, and then anyone in opposition, if they have standing, have the authority or have the right to cross-examine witnesses. So it's going to feel kind of a lot like a courtroom. Haven't done one of these in a while, so I just wanted to remind the board of that. There's a very specific set of standards that if there's questions for anything, it's always good to stop and ask questions. And there might be times even where I pipe up. Generally, I try to keep my mouth shut, but and go into certain things with witnesses, and it's because of the evidence that needs to be presented needs to be confident. So just want to remind the board of the kind of nature of the hearing here.
With the public hearing open, I'll ask the applicant or its representative to come forward.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, good evening. My name is Tillman Pope. I'm an attorney in Dunn, and I represent the applicant ABJ Investments LLC. Thank you for having us this evening. It looks like you have quite a busy agenda, so I will try to be cognizant of your time in my comments and the presentation of our testimony. Your attorney has already advised you as to the nature of this proceeding. I think it's helpful to point out what this is not. This is not a rezoning request. The property is already zoned properly. This is not a request to waive any of the requirements for a subdivision that you have in your UDO. This is not a request for a conditional use permit to request greater density than is allowed in the R11 zoning district. This is merely a request as to whether or not the technical requirements in your UDO to get a preliminary plat approved have been met. Your planner has been over what those 4 criteria are, and we believe we will present competent and material evidence to substantiate that those four criteria have been met. Your staff has determined that they have been met. Your planning board has unanimously determined that they have been met. So we will try to be brief in our presentation of testimony that will establish this criteria. And those that may speak in opposition, I don't know what might be said this evening, but I would reiterate what your attorney has stated to you, is that it must be competent evidence. Laypersons are not allowed to provide opinions on a variety of matters under our state statutes, including traffic, property values, and other things. So to the extent that there is testimony that is not relevant nor permissible this evening, we would certainly request that you not consider that in making your determination. At this time, Mr. Mayor, I would ask Ms. Joseph to come back to the stand, if she could please, as she's been sworn. Ms. Joseph, can you give us a little bit about your educational and work background?
Yes. I have been with the town for 6 years, working in the planning department. I have been the planning director for 2 years. I have a master's degree in urban and regional planning. I have completed the certified zoning official course with the UNC School of Government. I am a member of the American Planning Association. And prior to coming to Benson, I worked in real estate development, doing adaptive reuse of buildings in the city of Richmond.
Thank you, Ms. Joseph. Mr. Mayor, at this time, I would like to tender Ms. Joseph as an expert in zoning and planning regulation. Ms. Joseph, in your capacity as a planner for the town of Benson, are you familiar with the Unified Development Code?
Yes.
And in particular, are you familiar with the 4 criteria that are up here on the screen that must be satisfied in order for a preliminary plat to gain approval?
Yes.
If we could look at the first one, please. Consistency with the adopted plans and policies of the town of Benson. Do you have an opinion as to whether or not the plan submitted by the applicant is consistent with the adopted plans and policies of the town of Benson?
Yes, it is my opinion that it is consistent with the adopted plans and policies of the town.
Okay. And the second criteria is that the subdivision meets all required specifications of this chapter, being a chapter within your Unified Development Code. Do you have an opinion as to whether or not the plan submitted by the applicant meets all the required specifications of this particular chapter of the Unified Development Code?
Yes, it is my opinion that it does meet the required specifications of the Unified Development Code chapter.
And in your prior presentation to the commissioners, I believe you testified that the location of this property is consistent with the projected use of it in the land use plan. Is that correct?
Yes, it is identified as suitable for medium density residential.
And in connection with that, being consistent with your land use plan, do you have an opinion as to whether or not the proposed subdivision as submitted by the applicant, that it will not be detrimental to the use or orderly development of other properties in the surrounding area?
Yes, it is my opinion that it will not be detrimental to the orderly development.
And in your prior testimony to the commissioners, you showed the zoning for the adjacent subdivision. I believe that is also R11, the same as this particular property. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And based upon that zoning and the land use plan, do you have an opinion that the proposed subdivision will not violate the character of the existing standards for development of properties in the surrounding area?
Yes, that is my opinion that it will not violate the character of the surrounding area.
And looking at the final criteria, being the first portion of that the subdivision design will provide for the distribution of traffic in a manner that will avoid or mitigate congestion within the immediate area. Does the plan as submitted by the applicant comply with your Unified Development Ordinance concerning the numbers of areas of ingress and egress for traffic into the subdivision?
Yes, it does. It identifies two per the Unified Development Code.
And that is what is required by the Unified Development Code?
Yes, that is required.
And are you of the opinion that the subdivision design will distribute traffic in a manner that will avoid or mitigate congestion within the immediate area?
It is my opinion that it will, with those two access points and with the turn lane on NC 27 that NCDOT will require.
And sticking with that last criteria that must be found, the second portion of that is that the subdivision will provide for the unified or orderly use or extension of public infrastructure. Explain to the commissioners your understanding relative to the utilities that will service the subdivision.
The utilities will be served by the town of Benson. It is my understanding that it will be sufficient for that subdivision, that the flow was there, that the connectivity into that subdivision, it will be sufficient. I do understand that we are in a holding period right now with the state as far as permits, but that will be handled at the time that a permit is submitted for the extension of the sanitary sewer. But as far as any other utilities, I believe that it will serve the property in the manner that it is intended to, will not be a detriment.
Okay. And just two clarifying questions on that. So are you of the opinion that that this proposed subdivision as applied for by the applicant will provide for the unified and orderly use or extension of public infrastructure?
Yes, I am of the opinion that.
Thank you, ma'am. And because this came up at a prior hearing, and I'm glad you've already addressed this, the permitting is something that comes after a subdivision approval. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so permitting for extension of infrastructure will be a matter between the applicant and the agencies that issue those permits and not necessarily the town of Benson. Is that correct?
Correct.
And if those permits are not issued, then the applicant would not be able to develop a subdivision as approved.
That's correct.
And then the last section of the last criteria that must be found is says it will not materially endanger the environment, public health, safety, or the general welfare. In your prior testimony to the commissioners, you indicated a number of agencies and town departments to which this
application was submitted. I wrote down fire, electric, public works, utilities, Johnson County relative to stormwater, and the superintendent of public instruction. Does that sound accurate?
Yes.
And after submitting to all those public safety and environment agencies, did any of them provide any response to you to indicate that this proposed subdivision would endanger the environment, the public health, the safety, or the general welfare?
No.
And are you of the opinion that the subdivision preliminary plat as presented by the applicant will not materially endanger the environment, public health, safety, or general welfare?
Yes, I am of the opinion that it will not endanger the environment, public health, safety, and general welfare.
Thank you, Ms. Joseph. That's all the questions I have for this witness, Mr. Wade.
Is there any party that has standing, you can talk about that, but I'd like to ask Ms. Joseph any questions.
Yes,
She
I
said-
guess.
Well, come on up. So, Mr. Mayor, we need to go with your name and be sworn.
I am Carly Moore. I live at 306 Pine Street.
And now, before we get into the question, you need to just give a general testimony to the board as to why you would have standing as a party. I would presume in opposition, because I'll just go ahead and say I was at the planning board, so I'm assuming that's why you're here. Explain to the board, just generally, why
Okay.
you would have standing to oppose this, to be a party in opposition.
My standing, I got a learning at the last meeting, and I was dressed down by both attorneys, so I get that you all have already figured out what you wanted, how you wanted to zone, which was 5 years before my time, and everyone has crossed their T's and dotted their I's, and if that's what the town wants, then I'm not arguing with that. But I did have a conversation with Miss Joseph, because it was on the bottom of the letter, if you had questions, call. And I did, shall we swear me? You want to
Yes,
swear me?
yes.
This
Yeah.
swearing.
All right.
Okay. And then I'll back you up. You, swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
So help me God, I did.
But,
Okay.
Mayor, before you get into all that you're getting into, which is fine to testify to, I would advise you to try to explain to them why it is that you have particular interest
Okay,
that's affected by what the applicant's trying to do, like perhaps start with where you live.
here, I said, it's on 306 Pine Street. I'm right next to the Bostic House. You could find it on the map. I'm right about where the bend, where Pine Street and Woodall connect. So, what my concern is that without, and he's gonna ask me later if I'm an engineer, and I'm not an engineer. However, I think we all know that water runs downhill. So, what I'm trying to do, after talking to Miss Joseph, what I was turned down last time, and maybe you're gonna turn me down again, was I stated some concerns about flooding issues behind my house. And when I had those issues, I talked to my insurance agent, I swear, to God, I swear. And he said, well, you'd have to have flood insurance. And so I said, okay, could you quote it for me? And then he came back and said, well, I could quote it for you, but it won't help you because your HVAC is under the floor
Object,
joist.
Mr. Mayor, I'm gonna just have to object to anything that has been stated to her by somebody who's not here to provide testimony and be.
Okay,
cross
that's
examined.
fine, but I'm just telling you that I can't even give insurance.
Let me get ahead of
about
this a little bit.
Okay,
Right, you're gonna have an opportunity as a party in opposition, to
okay,
come and present all what you feel like you want to do, is confident and all that stuff.
okay, but I
But
thought
right
I
now-
was explaining why
right now-
I'm standing here.
Right now, it is just your time to cross-examine her. So you would ask her questions based on what Mr. Copeland is. And then you can come back up after and present. your-
Okay, well, we had a conversation. I stated my concerns about potential flooding and not wanting to become a low spot after regrading. She said things to me about stormwater drains maybe will help me, and I hope that's true, but I would like to have,
Cross-examine means ask her questions.
oh, all right, didn't we have this conversation? And then you told me that it would be a good idea to bring my pictures as evidence to be on record, and that's all I'm trying to do.
Yes.
You all wouldn't let me do it last time. Can I do it this time? Yes, that is true that we had a conversation and I advised you that if you have evidence that you'd like to submit for the record, that yes, you definitely should do that.
And that's what I'm trying to do, just in the event that for some reason stormwater drains fail, because I can't even get insurance to protect myself from this when this happens.
When it's time for you to present your case, because remember, everybody in the room needs to understand this. This is like a court proceeding. He has the
Well,
time to
I'm a
do.
good girl, I haven't been in court before.
That's probably good.
So I don't know what
What
to tell
that-
you.
what that
You're telling
means-
me to say
well,
something,
that's
then you're
it.
telling me
So-
not to say it.
What
Sit
that,
down, stand.
what
Sit
that
down.
means is that Mr. Pope's gonna present the applicant's case, and then the opposition has a chance to present their case. So
I don't
right
even
now,
need a case from Mr. Pope. All I want is for him and you all to take these pictures and give them to the developer so that I don't become a moat if something goes wrong.
When-
That's all I want.
when Mr. Pope's done with his case, then you can present your evidence. Do you have any other questions for Ms. Joseph?
No. Thank you. So shall I go sit down?
You can come back.
Okay, do I get to be re-sworn in again?
No, you're sworn, you're.
Okay. Well, that's just okay.
Mr. Mayor, at this time, I would call Scott Brown. Mr. Brown, state your name and address for the record, please.
Scott Brown, 409 Chicago Drive, Fayetteville, North Carolina.
And can you provide the commissioners a brief background, your educational background, work experience, please?
Yes, sir. I am a licensed professional engineer in the state of North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. I have in excess of 24 years of experience in consulting work. For the past 15 years, I have been owner partner of 4D Site Solutions in Fayetteville, North Carolina. That's an engineering surveying company.
Mr. Mayor, at this time, I'm going to tender Mr. Brown as an expert in civil engineering. Mr. Brown, are you familiar with the proposed preliminary plat that's for consideration before the commissioners this evening?
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with the property itself, the physical characteristics of the property and the interrelation between the proposed subdivision plat and the property?
Yes, sir.
Let's go ahead and address then, if we could, the lady's concern that she had about drainage. Can you just give a brief description to the commissioners about the process if they approve a preliminary plat? What must occur in order to get permitting relative to stormwater drainage?
Yes. So there's been some preliminary analysis completed so far. And if you've got a proposed stormwater loss, proposed storm pond on the northwest corner of the property, in that kind of the wooded area on the upper red parcel there you're looking at on your screen. And provided that the board, the council tonight, approves the preliminary plat, the next steps will be to start the civil design. And as part of the civil design, it will include preparing the stormwater design and getting the stormwater permit, which is issued in this case by Johnson County based on their guidelines and their requirements. So at the point in time that construction and drawings and design move forward, the storm pond will be designed in accordance with the latest Johnson County requirements submitted and approved by Johnson County prior to any construction activity being able to take place.
And even though those decisions are not before the commissioners this evening, they are just considering approving a preliminary plat. If the plat is approved and the applicant does not obtain a stormwater permit from Johnson County, they will not be able to build the subdivision.
That is correct.
Let's talk for just a minute about traffic.
Yes, sir.
Can describe for the board your understanding of what the DOT is going to require relative to the subdivision if the council approves, the commissioners approve the application.
NC 27 is currently DOT maintained street. Ms. Joseph gave a statement a few minutes ago that she had corresponded with NC DOT in reference to reviewing the plans. And I have contacted NCDOT myself through emails and direct conversation with Sam Lawhorn, who is the current district engineer for this division. And per my conversations with Sam, that left and right turn lanes will be required on NC 27 with 100-foot storage requirements on both the left and right storage.
And again, even though this is not technically before these commissioners and considering a preliminary plat approval, but the applicant will not be able to connect to Highway 27 as a part of this subdivision unless they meet all DOT requirements. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, if we could very quickly go through the 4 criteria based on your education, training, and experience. As a civil engineer, you're familiar with the requirements of the town of Benson UDO, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And are you of the opinion that the plan submitted by the applicant is consistent with the adopted plans and policies of the town of Benson?
It is my opinion it does comply with the Benson requirements.
And based on your education, knowledge, training, and experience as a civil engineer, are you of the opinion that the proposed subdivision as submitted meets all the required specifications of the town of Benson Unified Development Ordinance?
In my opinion, yes, it does.
And based upon your education, training, and experience as a civil engineer, are you of the opinion that the subdivision as presented will not be detrimental to the use or orderly development of the other properties in the surrounding area?
It is my opinion that it will not be detrimental to the surrounding property.
And based on your knowledge, education, and experience as a civil engineer, are you of the opinion that this proposed subdivision plat will not violate the character of existing standards for development of the properties in the surrounding areas?
Yes, sir. It's my opinion that it will not violate the character of the surrounding properties.
The last one, we'll break this one down a bit. Based on your education, knowledge, and experience as a civil engineer, are you of the opinion that the proposed subdivision plan as submitted will provide for the distribution of traffic in a manner that will avoid or mitigate congestion in the immediate area?
Yes, sir.
And based upon your education, knowledge, and experience as a civil engineer, are you of the opinion that the proposed subdivision will provide for the unified and orderly use of or extension of public infrastructure and will not materially endanger the environment, public health, safety, or the general welfare?
I agree with that statement and we'll repeat it all.
Very good. Thank you, sir. That's all the questions I have for this witness.
All right, again, does anybody have any questions? Anybody on the other side that's standing, would you like to ask this witness any questions?
Would you like to have my pictures? Are you sure that I don't have a phone? Is somebody not having pictures?
You're gonna get that opportunity, I promise y'all. We'll get your opportunity to present your evidence. This is the time to ask him questions. He's the witness for the applicant. You can ask him questions as long as you understand. Hello, sir. You come up, be sworn, and if you're going also off the testimony.
Mr. Mayor, we need a better sound system. Very hard to hear back there. Can't hear anything.
Tyler, can you turn the mic up? Is it?
Hello, hello.
It's first be sworn, you just establish your stand.
Okay.
Tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I will. I would direct you now, sir, give your name and address to the board.
I did it last week. It was like,
This is a different board. You
I'll
have
do
to
the same
do it
thing.
again. Then go into, please, first and foremost, how you are affected, particularly personally, by what the applicant's proposing to have approved.
Okay, I'm Tom Parrish. I live at 400 South Lincoln Street in Benson, which is about a block off the section of where this is being planned. And when I bought the property back in 1975, Ms. Bostic
Sir,
promised me that it would never be open, that street. It's not meant to be a
Objection,
through
Mr.
street.
Mayor.
again, and just for everybody's benefit, the folks in this room that want to oppose this will have a time, I promise.
So what am I supposed to do now?
Ask him questions.
Ask him
On what
questions?
Mr. Pope went into, you can ask him questions.
I couldn't hear half of what you said, but
Okay.
I know you're an expert and you think everything's hunky-dory back there. I assume that West Brockland is supposed to be opened up as a means for people to go and come there
The access is as shown previously, there's two access points, yes, sir.
from off 27
Yes,
and
sir.
West Brockland.
Yes, sir.
How about West Man Street? Wouldn't that be a good access point from the backside straight to Highway 301?
But as we're only connected to the two streets that are shown, I don't think we have any direct access to the streets you're referring to. I'd have to look at
Wouldn't
that.
it be a good thing to look into that, is what I'm saying?
As far as,
Another access out.
you could have 100 accesses if you wanted to. The ordinance requires a minimum of 2. We're proposing 3, with 2 being as of right now, and a third being in future development ever place.
What would the third be?
That's at the bottom of the screen. Can you flip to that slide here?
Is that on 27?
No, sir. It would be to the undeveloped property to the south. Right.
Just concerned about the
Would be a future connection to the road. I guess.
traffic congestion coming off Rockland Street and going in and out of there. When it's a dead end street into McLeod Street, they can't turn right because all of that is a cul-de-sac type thing down there. That's my concern. I would like you to look into maybe Man Street as another possible way to relieve the congestion.
Okay.
That's April 1st.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Tom.
I have another question.
I think you've established, unless there's any objection, you live adjacent.
Okay, here's my question. After this all happens, I've already asked Ms. Joseph if we have any traffic reports, and what I understand is we don't really, but how would we go about lobbying for speed bumps if we end up needing them? Is that something we'd be able to do later?
Did you witness your asking?
Lobbying for speed bumps internal to your existing subdivision streets, or where are you
Yes,
referring to speed
because
bumps?
Pine Street empties out onto Main and jogs right over to 50, which takes you to 40, so it's already traveled a lot.
The subdivision streets, I mean, you could lobby for the town anytime you wanted to for the town to put speed bumps in or look at traffic calming devices, whatever you want to do as far as the town's concerned.
And
But
which
NC
meeting would
27
we have to show up for if we needed to do that with her?
You would have to probably start with Aaron or somebody in Public Works if there's a current issue that you would like to get worked out and resolved, would be where I would take the start.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Thank you.
First be sworn, give your name, and then we'll establish your standing.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
My name is Jeff Johnson. I live on Brockland Street, one lot away from the development of Kirk. Been there for 30 years, and my background is not a civil engineer. I was worked in banking, and then I worked for Fortune 500 company for 36 years. The question I have for you is, have you been over and physically viewed the property, Brockland Street, that area, for access to the subject property?
Yeah, I have not walked all up and down through the streets, but I have viewed the property, yes, sir.
Okay, and you're aware that the speed limit in that area is 25 miles per hour because of children playing?
Most subdivision streets, or I can't tell you exactly what it are, but I am aware it's a reduced speed limit. Yes, sir.
Does that not affect the viability of just 2 access points into a community like that?
No, because I mean, you're not going from an interstate to a community, you're going from one community to another community. And and people over time are going to get a feel for which way they'd rather get out. I mean, if you have one access point, but you got direct access to 27, or you can make your back way through the other direction. So it's going to be up to people to determine which way works better for them at the time of the day.
And how familiar are you with the construct of Benson and with blocks, city blocks?
As far as, I mean,
This would be equivalent to what, approximately 10 or 12 city blocks?
the development itself,
Yes.
there's 95 lots in it. Typically, the city, most blocks are about 400 foot. So I'm not sure exactly what the question is.
And in the town, 8 or 10 city blocks, or 10 or 12 city blocks, we have a lot of different exit points.
Okay.
We only have 2 for this, which is the minimum, as I understand it, for
Yes,
the
sir.
development. There is one shown, that could be a third. Do you know what property that stub goes to?
It's undeveloped right now, to my understanding. I think it may be the McLean property.
Okay, so it would be the same people who are doing this development? I would
I'm
say.
not sure it's the same people. I can't tell you maybe a difference. I know, I'm pretty sure it's McLean property.
Is there somewhere we can get that kind of answer? Because if that's in future development of the same group, then is that not going to exceed the 100 unit traffic study number?
I can tell you that there's no future plans right now. There's no conceptual, there's no deal in place, to my knowledge, to develop beyond what you're seeing on that screen.
Answer your question.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for explaining. Thank you.
We're gonna go into the opposition testimony.
Well, I don't know if Mr. Pope may still have more case to put on, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, that, if there's no other questions for Mr. Brown, that's all the evidence that I intend to introduce at this time. I would like to reserve the right for a brief closing statement after the opposition. Thank you.
Opposition testimony, come forward.
Okay, cool.
You've been sworn.
I've been sworn. Look
And
what
just-
happens behind me in the field. All I'm saying is, I would like you to not let this become my yard, please. And I understand that there are supposed to be wastewater drains that will happen, but if they fail, what recourse will I have? And I know that I don't have insurance for it, whether I'm allowed to say that or not. I can't even buy any, whether I'm allowed to say that or not. Shoot me, ask me if I care.
I think you're allowed to say it. I would suggest if you want to let the board look at those, let Mr. Pope look at them and establish where they came from and what.
This is behind
they're looking at.
306 Pine Street. And this is what happens if it rains hard, and it doesn't have to be a hurricane. And it makes for really nice frog noises, and ducks get to play there. I'm going to miss them all very much. But it is my life's investment, this house that I wanted to retire in, by beautiful cows that you all are taking from me. Could we not make it Noah's Ark? Can I please have that in the record, so if something tragic happens, I can get my own attorney to rescue me? That's all I'm wanting, is just for you to be aware that it floods back there a lot. And when you regrade, obviously, maybe I become the low spot. And hopefully the drains will save me, but if they don't, I would like that in record. That's all I want.
Anyone else? Opposition testimony. Come forward.
Well, still have, those of you that have spoken cross-examined can come and speak again if you'd like. I know I tried to stop you, but don't want to chill you from speaking.
My name is Tim Schell, and I reside at 504 West Rockland Street. We just moved to Benson in February, and now this. I do have some questions because I have a hard time swallowing the information that the impact of traffic and congestion is going to be minimal or non-existent. We're going to be living right at the back entrance to this subdivision, and there's 95 houses going in, and I suggest that the town of Benson has a road maintenance problem because Woodall Street that I use to get to and from work every day is a minefield trying to drive down the road. We're adding all these new homes, and I don't think the infrastructure there can support the additional traffic. I would like assurances that that would be dealt with, number one. Also, I heard sidewalks, etc. I would like to know, does that extend, excuse me, onto Brockland Street? Is my front yard going to be torn up with sidewalks, etc.? I'm a little disappointed that this wasn't disclosed when we purchased our home. But and the fact that there might be two entrances, is that the other red box? Is that another proposed entrance? Am I correct?
This is Stone Street, so for future development.
For
At the very
future-
bottom.
So, yeah, and again, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but two proposed entrances in what looks to be an isolated corner of the subdivision is funneling all that traffic one direction, unless you want to go to 27 and go all the way around downtown to get to 242 or wherever they're going. Again, I have a hard time believing the information that we're hearing tonight, and I would like to hear some clarification.
Tillman, are you interested in a rebuttal in that?
I'm gonna let all the opponents that wish to speak, and then I'll determine whether or not we're going to bring it or not. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else on the opposition testimony?
Again, I'm Jeff Johnson. Thank you for hearing me. We had some concerns with the development and the lot sizes and its impact on the community. Sorry. We had some concerns about the lot sizes and the impact on the community, the density of this development. Currently, we have some traffic congestion in town, as I'm sure many of you are aware. I'm not certain why the units seem to be so small. We've asked for a distribution of the lot sizes to try to get a perspective on how they compare to other parts of the town, but that's not been made available. I don't know if somebody has that or not. We're concerned with the impact it will have to schools, the roads and utilities the town provides. And I guess that we assume that the development's going to pay for the extension of the turn lanes on Highway 27, or is that the town? Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else in opposition? Come forward. I give the applicant a chance for rebuttal.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have any rebuttal evidence, and I'll just make a very short closing statement if I could. You've been very generous with your time, and I'm not going to go back through all the criteria. Again, we've already established that. We've had two witnesses that have been sworn as experts, which entitles them to give opinion testimony. Both of them in their opinions as expert, that all four of the criteria are met. Those that spoke in opposition, while certainly as neighbors of pending potential future development is not always what you want for yourself, but none of the testimony presented is competent for your consideration, legally competent as it relates to the criteria for the subdivision. North Carolina Statute 160D 1401 actually specifically prohibits you from considering a non-expert opinion as it relates to increase in vehicular traffic resulting from a proposed development as it relates to danger of public safety. So what the neighbors think might happen with respect to traffic is not something that you can even take into consideration. And the same thing with respect to the infrastructure. Those are development issues. If the infrastructure is not available, if the developer doesn't put in the infrastructure, those are development issues. Those are not approval of a preliminary plat issue. So those are not items that are before you this evening. The lot sizes, your planner has testified that the proposed subdivision plat is consistent and complies with all the terms and conditions of your Unified Development Ordinance, which includes the lot sizes. So that is not something that neighbors or anybody else can say, you know, you can't approve these lot sizes, as I mentioned at the beginning of our case, that we're not requesting a greater density than what is already allowed in the R11. So based on the competent testimony of the two expert witnesses that we have presented, we believe that we have established by competent, substantial, competent, and clear evidence that the four criteria in your Unified Development Ordinance have been met, and we would respectfully request that you follow the recommendation of your staff and your unanimous vote of your planning board. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioner.
I'm also gonna give the opposition the chance for rebuttal.
An observation I forgot to make earlier was that, even though this lot size is conformed to the standard, there seems to be a preponderance of minimum lot sizes, which will increase the density of population in the area significantly. It looks like the minimal is being done to turn this property into something to make money for someone. And I'm afraid that, even though I can't prove it because I'm not a civil engineer, it will impact the community around it, especially on the street that I live, but a lot of the other roads around there as well.
Thank you. Anybody else want to make a rebuttal? I'm not going to go to the commissioner's inquiry. And the commissioners can ask any questions that they want to, either to the staff or to anybody that has contributed. Any comments from the commission?
I'd like to ask Aaron and Joseph some questions. Based on your determination, you also made a statement that you have contacted a number of agencies as they relate to this particular request. One being the North Carolina Department of Transportation.
Yes.
Did you get a tangible response from the North Carolina Department of Transportation, or was that an oral response?
It was via email.
Via email.
Yes.
I thought I heard, and I was having difficulty hearing also, but I thought I heard reference to a turn lane.
Correct. That was the comment that was sent from the district engineer, Sam Lawhorn, that a right and left turn lane would be required at NC 27 Howard.
Okay, a turn lane on 27 to accommodate this proposal.
Yes.
Okay. In your communication with the North Carolina Department of Transportation, did they only look at this particular 95 acre or 39 acres or whatever, or did they also consider properties across on the other side of 27? Would that turn lane accommodate them as well, or is this only accommodating this 39 acres?
I don't know. I send him the preliminary plat and he provides comment. His comments are always very brief. Either a standard driveway is required, or in this case, his comment was a left and right turn lane would be required. He did not indicate what the formula and the determination of why. I assume because of the traffic count on NC 27, which I verified is at 7,300 average daily trips a day. So I'm assuming they have their own formula, but he didn't indicate that he factored in any other developments. It was strictly based off of the preliminary plat that I sent to him.
Well, based on your testimony, based on your recommendation, and based on the totality of all that you've had in dealing with this, do you think any other property in that area would be accommodated by that turn lane? If you know.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Would anybody else would they be precluded from doing development, say, across the road if they wanted to because of this development?
I do not believe so. I do not believe that would be the case, that they would be precluded from development because of the turn lane or because of this development.
Are you aware of any issues with properties now being able to access or to come on to 27?
No, I'm not aware of any.
You said other agencies or other entities that you may have contacted. Could you just revisit those with you? You said the DOT. Who else were the other agencies?
Yes, NCDOT, Johnson County, Stormwater and Sedimentation and Erosion.
Did you receive documentation from them or something tangible to satisfy you?
Yes, an email from the engineer and Her comment was stormwater permits are required.
What were the other agencies?
The Johnson County School Board, the superintendent, the,
Did you receive any documentation or any response from the school board?
not directly from the superintendent, but I did from the, director of construction of schools and facilities. And he stated he did via email, because I send all of these outside agencies, per their request, email correspondence. He stated that he did not have any issue with the preliminary plat. He noted that the lots were small, but that was outside of his purview. And he also sent me a report that the Johnston County Schools, they contract with NC State to assess the growth for the county at large. He acknowledged that overcrowding in the schools are a county-wide issue, that Benson Elementary is overcapacity by 17 students, and that they have provided mobile units to accommodate those excess students.
So he provided you with the information that the middle school or the elementary school was above the capacity at this time.
That is what he stated in the email, and then he also attached the report that the NC State works on for them to track development growth trends in the county.
Is that something, would that be one of the areas that you considered when you made the determination and the recommendation for this proposal? You took that into consideration, the information from the school system?
Yes, I take that into consideration, but also limited consideration, because I look at the findings of fact, and overcrowding of schools or school capacity isn't one of the findings that are noted, but our development ordinance does require that they do review out any preliminary plat. So I sent it to them, and he provided those comments. But because he said he did not have any concern with it, and he's the expert, I took that as that there's no issue from the school in relation to this subdivision.
Did you have any other agencies or entities that you received information from?
Yes, the staff, the department heads from the town. So utilities or public works looked at it from the utilities perspective. Glencore, who's our electric supervisor, reviewed it. And also Chief Allen with the fire department, as well as E.G. Burr, we all met to go over the preliminary plat and discuss the technical details of it. I received comment back from E.G. Burr regarding the cul-de-sac size, that it should be 96 feet. But that this project access, both accesses are required from fire perspective, as well as from the Unified Development Ordinance. It does require 2 access points. Also, he provided comments about looping the utility system, but when he spoke with the Public Works Director, he clarified that type of system, looping it internally within the subdivision, is not necessary, because you would be circulating the same water. Looping of a system is necessary outside of that particular development. the pressure was sufficient enough to serve this development. And those were the comments from fire. The electric department did not provide any written comments to me, nor did Public Works. They reviewed it with me in person, looked over the preliminary plat, and they didn't have any comments or anything that stood out to them that troubled them about the preliminary plat. They were okay with it.
Aaron, can I have you revisit about the 17 kids being overcrowded by 17? Was that just the middle school and elementary, or did that include South Johnson?
No, he only stated the elementary school.
Just the elementary.
Right, that the elementary school was currently over capacity by 17 students, and that they have provided trailers or mobile units to address that capacity.
Question.
So do you know, excuse me,
Go ahead, that's fine.
so do you know about the, if there's any overcrowding at South Johnson?
I don't, from what I've seen and looked at the reports, the projections, I believe it stated that it was, I can't recall the numbers. And those numbers that I looked at just from a search, it stated that the elementary school in South Johnston were over capacity, and it breaks it out per calendar year or school year, but the middle school did not indicate that.
Too much.
My question might be full of riddle with inaccuracies, but I looked on the map of Benson and I saw Rockland Street seems to go straight to like Carly C's, behind Carly C's, around in that area, straight out. Is that right?
Well, when you look at the map, it's sort of West Brockland is broken into two, so there's sort of two accesses
So
into
kind of go like that, and then 2 streets out.
right, and then it does, a portion of it does fall behind Carly C's, but then there's a breakout point that I don't know if it continues straight to.
So my question is, will the town incur any expense in having to make that street, improve that street for the increased traffic? Because my thought about it is those are kind of back streets and they're not really, they're pretty small.
If I may, I live on West Rockland, and the Cliffwood development. Use this. The Cliffwood development is backing up to Wiles, and so there's a sliver of wood area that is going to separate us from the Cliffwood developments. In other words, that street is not going to go straight through. And so Rockland, of course, running east to west, and picking back up on the other side of the development, is further away than my thinking. And so there would really be no opportunity for making that street straight.
The Unified Development Ordinance does require street improvements to the surrounding immediate area, or the applicant can pay a fee in lieu, and the town would take that money and can make improvements.
So did I understand you just say that the applicant will have to make sure that the streets of egress are adequate?
It would be improvements to the immediate area. I can't quote the exact verbiage or from the Unified Development Ordinance, but it does state that collector streets, residential collector streets that feed immediately into the development shall be improved. And so if there are any improvements.
So is that just improvement, just right in the immediate area, like within 100 feet, or to the main highway?
Right, with the immediate area, I do not believe that it would be the entire,
I'm trying to see the
Street.
purpose with it, if you have the street worked out, and then you have a bottleneck. Sure.
that's in accordance with the Unified Development Ordinance.
Any other questions of the board?
I do have
Anybody?
some, I do. And I can tell you right now, I am not an engineer, but I got enough sense to know. Tell me where these two, at the bottom, where are they coming out at? Off the streets, where are they coming off at?
So you have here, this is onto West Rockland Street. So it currently dead ends and it will be extended, this will be opened up. This is a stub road this is an adjacent property. So this is really for future development if this parcel is ever developed. And then it would offer an opportunity for connectivity through this site and how that parcel would be developed. So because you want connectivity versus disjointed development. And so while this stub street is not necessarily required per the Unified Development Ordinance, but the developer applicant is showing it to accommodate for future development because this land here could potentially be developed. It is vacant land. It's zoned accordingly for residential development. So they're just showing that this could potentially be a street.
So that's gonna pull more traffic down Rockland Street.
Well, it depends on how, because this could potentially, if you look at a map, it depends on how the design of a future development. I don't have a plat to show you how this would be laid out. That would be determined if this is ever brought before you as a residential development. So it could very well, continue on. I believe Man Street, if I'm correct, Man Street has ends somewhere in here, but then there's a little slither that has been used as like a farm access road. So that it could potentially be access onto Man Street, or it could go further out. Just depends on how it's, developed. Again, this is just for future development.
I have no knowledge of what's over here and heading toward 301, but that's what I'm worried about. Is it within the conceivable, not possibility, I know it is possible, but is it likely that you could have another exit point and entry point to 301 without going through all the town, the back roads of town?
Through a future development?
Yeah, is there a way like to come here and go over here to 301 without going through about 50 properties that you could never get access to?
I don't want to say yes or no to that affirmatively because I don't know. It depends on how it's laid out, how many lots would be there. Conceivably, yes, it could. But it would depend on the way that future development is laid out, the streets, the number of lots, the number of required access points, and those sorts of things. So I don't want to state something that I don't know for sure, but yes, I would conceivably it could.
What is all this?
So all of this is on, I pull up the zoning map here. This will give kind of a better picture even of the, so these are the two sites. This is where that stub street, this is off of West Man Street back there. You can see kind of how it comes in there. All of this that's in purple here is zone R11, just like these parcels are. And then you get into the green because you're coming closer into town. So you get the R6, you get the smaller lot sizes. The closer you get into town, the smaller the lots, the denser the development.
Where is Rockland Street on that map?
So Rockland Street is right here. So that's why I was saying that, you know, Rockland, and this is Rockland Street as well. So there's a bit, and this is, believe this is, it would be planned development because you do have an, Cliffwood, phase 3 that's going in here with the 12 lots.
So the traffic's gonna have to go in on, right in there and then turn, basically go to Woodall Street and go.
Right, they could go out to Woodall, they could go to Pine, I mean, that,
If they were going that way, they'd get out on 27. So I'm talking about people going this way, going east or south.
mhm.
So
So this is Rockland, yes, so, and I believe this is,
so does Man Street go all the way to 301?
Man Street, I believe it does.
So
You
that,
go down further, then you're going to, get to 301 down in this corner area here. You can kind of see as well. And then you get to where they, 301 is.
Well, Aaron, isn't the point here, you know, by the requirements, by having two streets, going one in, one out, to meet the requirements for the third one is something for the future, so it's really not relevant to what we're talking about now.
Correct. The Unified Development Ordinance states that one access point in a stub street for 30 or more lots. Once you hit 75 or more, then you are required 2 access points. And they both have to be access points. It cannot be a stub street. So it doesn't mandate that stub street for this development. And then the next tier would be 250 lots. So it jumps from above 75, and then the next tier is 250, and that will require 3 access points, and all of them being access.
Did you finish your?
well, for future reference, is that something we decided or something that's a state law or some, how did you come up with that?
That is that's your ordinance.
That's what we got in our ordinance, so we can change it, not come up around now.
Yes, you can always change. You can always do a text amendment and change anything that you want in your ordinance and your zoning map through proper noticing and hearing.
Well, Aaron, again, I'm not an expert on this. I'm not trying to be, but I do know already we have flooding when it rains. We have water standing now. I also know that the schools are overcrowded now. And bringing in more is something that I just think.
Any other comments from the board? Any questions they want to ask anybody? Speak now. We're now going into deliberation. No person can address the commissioners now, and no question be asked the commissioners. So deliberate amongst yourselves. We'll call for a vote. You can talk amongst yourselves.
Thank you.
Could we just have a 2 or 3 minute break?
Yeah. We're going to take a 2-minute break.
I'm trying to figure out where it's coming from. Okay, you're on problem. Okay. Yeah, that little church, that little street that comes by those two churches. That's all.
Once again, I did learn that this happened way for a time. Yeah, and then 36 years and then must have done 10 years. Actually, short-sighted
All right, let's come back to order. Okay, let's remember, we're in deliberation, so if you have discussions amongst yourselves, now's the time you can talk to the outside. Everyone happy? Action.
They're not coming back.
I won't say anybody else.
I think it says that there's something that says that when two don't come back, mayor's got to go.
Will adjourn. I apologize to the audience. You want to get the findings up on the board? Aaron,
Sir?
you want to get the findings up?
Oh, yes. And so you have 4 findings of fact. I would highly recommend that you go through each finding of fact and deliberate on each one and vote for the record so that it's clear in the record and affirmative that the finding of fact has been met or not. So you want to take your time with each one, make a motion on each finding of fact. And then once you have considered and voted on each finding of fact based upon the evidence, then you'll want to make a motion either approving or denying. Now, the ordinance does state that that you all can approve the request, deny the request, or send the request back to the planning board for further review. But you want to make sure that that you are considering the findings of fact based upon the competent, relevant evidence that has been presented here this evening.
I'll entertain a motion for number 1.
We're still talking.
Okay, yeah, we're still talking.
Okay, I believe that the development people and lawyer have put on a great case, and I think it's been impressive. I think that it fulfills all of the requirements except the one about the manage, which will avoid or mitigate congestion within the immediate area. I believe they have. I believe they've shown us that it will fix it. There will be no congestion in the immediate area, but I see 2 people. I see a mom and pop there, and the mom is going to work and taking kids out in the morning, and the pop's going to work. That's 90 cars going this way and 90 cars going this way. And I know those back streets there, and I don't think the traffic issues is such that that's been addressed enough. And so I've got a problem with that either to say that that's going to be a problem with this, or we could send it back and figure something else out.
Would you like
Let's
to
start
address?
taking one at a time. In other words, somebody make a motion on the first one.
That's much preferable to do it that way. Take each criteria and
I make a motion that meets the consistencies with the adopted plans and policies of the town.
Any discussion on that one? All in favor? All in favor, say aye.
Repeat what you said, because I need to understand what you said about the findings in there.
I'll go back and look when we get to 4, because that's where I'm having an issue with the 4.
I have an issue with number 1 you just talked about as
I actually
well.
talked about number 4, I thought.
So, did you want me to go back through them, Commissioner? Or Commissioner?
I was
Rainer?
trying
Sorry.
to get with Commissioner Rayner as to what was your motion? That's what
I didn't make a motion, I was just saying what I thought. My general thinking about it, which I see the only thing that's an issue is congestion.
Dean made the motion.
Yeah, Dean
That was the first finding of
Right,
that.
that it may,
Number one.
meets the consistency with the adopted plans and policies of the town.
The first,
The first.
So we have a motion. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. All right, number 2. We're gonna take number 2.
I make a motion,
Oh, go ahead.
subdivision meets all the required specifications of this chapter, of the chapter. I make a motion that it does.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Number 3.
And 3 of some of the have some issue
Not number 4.
Okay, number 3. Who's gonna read it?
I make a motion the subdivision will not be. I'm like
It's in your packet as well, if you can't see it on the screen, it's in your stack.
Detrimental to the use or orderly development of the other properties in the surrounding area and will not violate the character of existing standards for development of properties in the surrounding area.
All right, is there any discussion about that?
I believe there's concern with number 3. The subdivision will not be detrimental to the use or orderly development of other properties in the surrounding area based on a concern that other properties that may develop, this is in the surrounding areas, that need access on the 27 may have problems with further development.
I'll entertain a motion.
Who's made the motion?
You made the motion.
No, I didn't.
Is there any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes raised a hand. All right, that motion fell. All right, number 4. Huh?
Was it just one yay, just one yes, and the other 4
One yes
are
and
no's?
4 no's.
You can consider the 4th one, but if it doesn't satisfy all of them, then it fails.
Well, let's take up the 4th.
I think the
Is anybody
subdivision,
gonna make a motion on number 4?
I would, I think the subdivision design, providing for the distribution of traffic in a manner that avoid and mitigate congestion, I think it will cause congestion in the immediate area, especially the Brockton Street direction. And then also, so therefore, I think it does not meet that qualification. I make a motion, it does not meet that qualification.
So you're gonna make a motion? You made a motion to approve.
I made a motion not to.
Okay. All right. There's a motion not to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it, so there was 2 that failed. What we do now,
to do anything in the moment, then that's your public hearing on that.
So do they
You
don't
need
need
to
to
have-
make a vote that says that
Look,
it is denied?
You can take a vote on the overall matter, because you failed two of your criteria, and then I think you should do that, but, then you'll have to have a written opinion on, your findings and everything, delivered to the parties after the fact. So I would suggest you go ahead and make a overall motion based on your findings on those four criteria.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the project.
Or deny it?
Or deny.
I make a motion that we deny.
I would suggest you make some, based on the
Based
criteria
on-
that failed and the reasons that you found it.
I make a motion to deny based on two of the criteria.
And that's criteria 2 and 3?
And
Three and four.
Three and four.
It would be advisable if you cited to the failure of evidence or evidence that you want to maybe consider as to why it failed those criteria that was presented.
So what do you need me to do?
It's your motion, but
I know my
if you're
motion.
gonna vote, make that motion, either way you're gonna make the motion, I would suggest you always cite to what particular items and evidence that you felt like were the foundation for that.
No, we need to tell, number 3, why we did not approve that.
Right, based
Three
on,
and four.
Three was failure to present in the findings of fact why. If other properties in the general vicinity, in the general area, surrounding area could be developed later on. That was 3. I don't know.
What about 4?
It was congestion.
Put all this on the record.
Yeah, it'll be on.
Number 4.
Was it congestion or traffic congestion? Was that?
I think it did not avoid or mitigate congestion, especially in the Rockland direction, Rockland Street, southern exit direction.
All right. It failed.
Did that
Well,
ever come-
did they vote?
Did that come to a vote?
It didn't. They need to vote on that.
Which one?
The overall
to deny it.
application, to recommend denial.
So do I need
failure.
to make my motion again?
She made a motion.
Yeah,
But they didn't vote.
Okay, well, let's vote then.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Raise your hand, ayes.
What was your
My motion was to deny on the facts, 3 and
2 criteria?
2 of the criteria.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no.
So it's 5 to, everybody voted to oppose it, 5 to 0. Correct?
Yes.
Is that it?
Do you think it's clear enough for the record?
Except for this.
It's not clear now?
Sure, no, I think it would, well, I think you made the motion and voted on it now, so I don't know if you can go back and change it.
I don't want to change.
Thank you. So the request has been denied based upon, the evidence, not sufficiently, meeting the finding of fact of number 3 and number 4 of the finding.
Hard to hear that.
We are really
It hopefully
remedying
will be
that
clear before this.
soon, I hope.
Yeah,
We'll
we
have a
are
new
getting a new
sound
sound system.
And so if any of you want to come back and participate in the deliberations, that'd be fine. We apologize for that you couldn't get back. Thank you, Mr. Cole.
Commissioner, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Fred Nelson, consider approval of fiscal year 21-22 budget.
Oh, man. Don't love you, but.
Can I say something? I'm Joyce McLean. I own the land next to where they're developing, and I have an access to main road. That we stop all your traffic. I know we do it. But, you know, I know these people worry about the traffic, but you can't stop. Y'all know I own that land, and I don't pay the town of Benson a penny tax. Not one penny tax on it goes. I pay Johnson County. Do y'all know how much town tax Benson would get if you build them houses out there? I know it would help me, but besides the point. But we got to help Benson in the big time. We got to think about somebody besides ourselves. Thank you.
Mayor, Commissioners, stand before you tonight to bring you again the town budget. Thank you for the opportunity to do that. Working with the town board and the department heads to bring certain issues to bear. I find it very enjoyable and I appreciate the opportunity. I want to address first the elephant in the room, and if I may. That is our salary proposal that was presented here previously. In this particular presentation this evening, I will not be making that same presentation.
Okay. Sorry.
I hear myself talking loud.
We got a lot of years in the fire truck with sirens. I can't hear very well.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
And so, what I will be asking for is a 4% increase for town employees, as opposed to what we saw previously, 22%, at least one, some 15, some 14. What I'd like to do tonight is to go through the memo, getting some highlights, and then go through the budget as well. So for the memo itself, we find that we have a change in the total budget for fiscal year 21 and 22. I'm going to set some of this aside. That is due to some revenue that came through the fire department, some $27,000 plus, to bring the budget total, proposed budget total to $13,171,971. And so our collection of property tax won't change. I go down to the highlighted section on the first page. I laid the memos at your desk. You should have one at your desk.
I don't think she got it.
Hold on. There you go, she can have that.
Did you find it?
I gave them.
Yes.
Want to make sure-
I have.
make sure everybody's got it.
I have it. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
All right, so at our 57 cents municipal rate totaling, we also find that we have an increase in the base water rate Again, repeating that from last meeting. And 5% volumetric increase for both water and sewer, or stormwater fee increase, 3% in refuse collection, that's by contract. And additionally, the electric rate reflects the elimination of the load management based credit. Some of our numbers for the second page are changing, have changed. That being for the general fund, 1,921,450. For water sewer, that one changed as well to 3,440,239. Then the electric fund, 4,810,282. That was to make
Those,
sure.
those numbers are not the numbers we got on the memo. I've got general fund 4,893,881. Okay. You got 4,921,450. Okay, we don't all have the same memos then.
You don't have that.
Mine's May 27th. We do not have it. Okay, there it is.
Okay, there you go.
Too many memos. All right, got it.
I had the same problem today.
Okay.
I've got so many renditions of different memos and budgets
Yes,
that it caused me a bit of stress and strain earlier today when I met with my department. So I'll go a little further and indicate in the salary section there, the second paragraph down, that town administration presents a plan to implement salary adjustments utilizing 2021 through 22 list of classes arranged by grades. And salaries shown for each department that I have in my worksheet at least are derived from employing a 4% increase. As we go through the budget, we know that there were at least 4 positions that I adjusted as opposed to the 4% increase. So our numbers remain the same for each fund except for the fire protection fund. You see on the next page there at the top, that 780,889 figure there was increased by $27,000 from the fire fund, and that those monies were redistributed in the budget. So if we go through our first 28 pages for the general fund, see that we have some tax, not increase, but tax revenue, some rents, and payment in lieu of tax from BHA, from Benson Housing Authority, occupancy tax, etc. Coming down to a total of $3,461,892. And in our notes, we'll see that the rents come from the State Highway Patrol and church that rents this facility during the course of the month. Our garbage fee, stormwater fee, and our fund balance, which is set aside for street resurfacing. That's something that the board had decided some years ago to be able to set the fund aside and to take care of the streets. I do believe, since Woodall Street was mentioned earlier, that is on the top of the list if I remember my spreadsheet correctly. So for our fund balance, we have a total of $200,200 in that fund. We move then to boards and commissioners, where that total budget is $34,461, and that is for your salaries, some travel, and some advertising, especially for the community account. Continuing in Fund 10 for general government, you see the salaries there at $136,485. Our professional services, etc., 9,000. Legal services expenses. Some of the things that we have no real impact on: Social Security expense, retirement. So down on notes for that Fund 10, professional services are cut in thirds for audits, $10,000. Economic development is for elected cities grants and website change, as well as BBC meetings. IT services, DC3 and Spectrum, BDM Americas, and those other expenditures you see there for insurance and bonds and donations. My time up. For Board of Elections, there's a $5,000 expense there. For again, Fund 10 in inspection and zoning, salaries at 188,872. Special boards, contract services, this 40,200 is the balance for the comprehensive land use plan that's being developed for the town. Of course, those Social Security, etc. there. And that's my comment there for solid. For our municipal buildings, we see our person who takes care of our buildings, 32,375. For salary, some utilities, pay ourselves $30,000. There's no capital outlay there for that department. Department supplies, in the age of COVID, certainly have increased our cleaning throughout the town's facilities. And so that figure was brought out, broken out, so that you can see that. That's $5,000. For the police department, those salaries were reduced by approximately $9,000. Just based on some patrolmen that have left us, and so that was brought down to 899,087. We have a Center of Communications retirement funds at 143,484. A little further down the line for gas and lubricants at 27,550. Vehicles at 10,000. Capital outlay 59,540. A little bit further down the list. And then capital reserve $900. The lease budget is $1,310,264. Central maintenance, utilities are at 5,000 expense, and then again department supplies 5,000. Street maintenance, I think our public staff are listed in there for their salaries because they do go from public works to street, etc. Retirement expense of 18 some change. Gas and lubricants 10,000. Resurfacing the streets, we have 250,000 set aside for that coming for the fiscal year. Have drainage expense expected to be 86,148. So you see the notes there for power bill funding plus 150. Paving for the fiscal year 21 through 22. Equipment, the lease for the relief act, and then the second, this would be the second of 5 payments. And then the drainage at 86 and 148 is for correcting stormwater and drainage issues throughout the time. On page 11, we have street lights and sanitation. Certainly our sanitation contracted services would be at 382. Usually that's a 3% increase by contract. Landfill gate fees at $500. And our cemetery, which we hope to be selling soon, $7,800. That's for skilled services to keep that cemetery straight. Our municipal grounds in Fund 10, the expenses that you see there, totaling $89,300 for skilled services again at 87, utilities. And the revenue total and expense total balance for that fund as well. Certainly, each of the funds, I may not have mentioned, each of the funds would have to be balanced within the budget and then present a totally balanced budget as well. For Fund 11, the fire department, current tax revenue coming there is $398,775. Inspections, 10,000. Johnson County Banner District, Fire District, went up from 231, 288 that you see in the request column to 258,857. That was the 27,000 plus dollars I mentioned earlier. Expenses for the fire department, salaries are at 297,041. Volunteer firemen at 85,000. Coming down a little bit to retirement, 1,091. I want to bring your attention to insurance and bonds. That's where the 27,569 influx of revenue since our last meeting was put into insurance and bonds. That would make that 57,569. Debt service is $118,051, and the expense and revenue totals for the fire department balance out at $780,889. Debt service, of course, is for the building, KS Bank for the fire truck, and the F-550. In Fund 12, we have at the general museum revenues, the income of 61,169. You realize that changes every year. It comes down just a little bit from the dollar. For their expenses, salaries coming in at 39,690. Total again for that fund is 61,169. Of course, that is balance for the museum. For the library, the current tax is at 85,000. Library income at 12,500. 97,500 being the total for the library revenues. So their expenses will balance with that. Salaries at 49,052. Retirement income, expense, and books and supplies that provide there at the library. Fund 14, which is our general parks and recreation. Current tax funding that activity of 480,000. Recreation department income, registration fees, etc. 40,000. For their expenses, we see salaries at 259,709. Skilled services at 27,810. 95 for utilities, 95,000. 10,000 for maintenance and repair of buildings and grounds. Special projects, 17,960. On the next page for the parks and rec, the public supplies coming in at 37,301. And what fund is balanced as well at $520,000 for this year. In total, then, for funds 10 through 14, we have $4,921,150. Moving then to our water and sewer fund, Fund 30. In our revenues, we see we have Water charges coming in at $1,540,000. Sewer charges $1,840,000. Other miscellaneous and tap charges coming in at $3,440,239. Fund 30. Our expenses, starting out with salaries coming in at $565,437. Field services, $125,000. Insurance and bonds down at $117,865. Some minor improvements, setting aside $40,000. $96,000 for equipment. Debt service there at $184,610. Total for expenses, of course, matching with $1,447,709. So in your notes, you'll notice on the next 22 of 28 pages, the infrastructure, I-40 valves, and ratio controls are in that line. For equipment, there's a service truck, crane, and backhoe lease. Line improvements, there's burst, control, and valve, and west ridge generator, so that fast for time. For debt service, and dog eye, annex, wastewater treatment plant line, on the works building and station. And for Fund 30, continuing with the expenses there. Water purchases will come in at $825,000. Debt services for the Water Phase 1 and Water Phase 2 and Smart Grid project coming in at $77,292. Total expenses then for that particular department, $967,292. Finishing out the Fund 30 expenses, we have $253,525 for salaries, $85,000 for utilities, $25,000 for maintenance and repair of equipment, gas and lubricants at $7,500, insurance and bonds $111,000, capital outlay $200,000, sludge disposal at $100,000, debt service at $103,355. Expense revenues balancing out for Fund 30, $3,440,229. Just a note for our equipment, rough cut, deck, and edger, capital outlay for rotor replacement out there. For our last fund, that being the electric department, revenues, we have full attachment fees coming in at $16,040. Electric charges at $4,363,833. Electric sales tax at $299,309. Total revenues coming in at $4,810,282. So for the electric fund, expenses, electric sales tax at 7% of the $299,309. Other expenses include salaries at $531,635, skilled services at $145,000, retirement expense coming in at $86,000. Total money set aside for our equipment in the building as well. Power purchase, $3,014,273. $142,250 set aside for line improvements. for your Fund 31, which is elected again, is $4,810,282, balancing out. In your note section, you'll see there at the bottom, replacing 4 breakers, sunset underground pole replacements, equipment, purchase of a ditch bridge, capital outlay for line truck and bucket truck, $47,000 and $50,000 respectively. At the bottom of the page, you'll see the $13,171,971 total budget for proposal for the 21-22 fiscal year. With that, in sum, mentioned that budget does address the goals and needs that were expressed during the retreat in February of this year. Financial investments are designed to address the infrastructure, personnel, and public safety, comprehensive land use planning, aesthetics, including code enforcement and street paving, quality of life, including park and rec department and our cultural department. And you see here that even the transportation improvements and installation of the roundabout, stormwater repairs, water sewer infrastructure needs are focused, including economic development opportunities for the nation. It should be poised to be able to serve the community well, given our focus on our infrastructure changes and our engineer partners working on the 80-90 issues that we've been having. You can see a little bit later on in the agenda that we are addressing that. I'll bring that forward in a few minutes. With that,
What about the budget?
Budget. Resources and yourself. That pay study included, not what I would consider a raise, what I would consider a market adjustment for certain employees in the town to bring them up to speed with what their competitors were making with other local municipalities.
Yes.
And me and you went through that the other day. If we take that market adjustment away and just go to a straight across the board 4% COLA, are we not still creating compression within those ranks and not adjusting those markets? But yet I don't see any reflection change on the budget. So basically we're being asked to approve the same amount of money without addressing the market salary adjustment that we talked about 3 weeks ago.
the 4% that I took a look at the salary and grade classification, would find that the proposed 4% does have each employee classification fall within the range, hiring range and the maximum range. Now that doesn't solve the problem of compression at all. As a matter of fact, it exacerbates it. That point was certainly made very emphatically during my meeting today with my staff. We have a monthly staff meeting. We went over this budget. We went over the 4% proposal as well. Money is in effect been redistributed throughout the positions that weren't getting so much during the course of that original proposal.
Here's what my concerns are, and me and you spoke about this, but I wasn't here at the last meeting. I was here via Zoom. Y'all know you can't hear. You obviously aren't allowed to participate much. I just want it noted and want to make sure y'all realize that last meeting, that the board voted to pay $21,000 for one contractor to come replace one employee for 7 days so he could go on vacation. And the reason we're doing that is because we don't have employees that have got the experience necessary to be able to fill those department head positions. That's my opinion. And I don't think that throwing a 4% raise across the board is going to help us in any way retain or attract the experienced people. Because we are under salary based on what that study showed compared to other municipalities. And that $21,000 is half of a line. So it's half of a Cody Pounds that was standing up here that we could train. And I can see that in the future, that becoming a necessary item if we lose a leader in public works, or if we lose a leader in fire, or a leader in any of our departments, because other than the police department plan that was presented by the police chief this year that we approved, I don't know of any plan that this town has to be able to move its employees up in that position. And what's worse, even if we do have the plan, we're not funding the money to be able to pay it. And I'm not in favor of raising the taxes if we're not going to fix the problem. That's the only way I can look at it. If we're going to raise taxes, I want to be able to say that I fixed the problem. And I think I don't agree with cost of living raises. I never have. And I think you should be paid based on performance, on your evaluation annually, and not on here's 4% for you, whether you're a crappy employee, or here's 4% whether you're a great employee. And I don't mean that by saying I don't believe we have crappy employees at Town of Benson. And so I think every one of them will get a raise if they got an evaluation.
You know, that's the example you gave. He said that I got the impression that his deal was he didn't get a vacation, and so a half a lineman wouldn't help him to get a vacation. So the problem I've seen the whole time is I absolutely agree. Everybody needs the raises that they deserve, the raises that we put out. We ain't got $300,000 for that. Plus, then I asked a direct question that first night. It might have sounded theory. I asked the question, would you be happy? And they said no. And so I don't know. I keep asking the same question. Where are we gonna get the money? And I don't understand that at all.
Well, I'm going to ask this question because I know, and y'all know, we've been told we've got over $1 million in COVID money coming to this town. It's not reflected in the budget. So what are we going to do with that money? It's hard for me to say I can't afford. I don't know. What can we do with that money?
We can shore up our water and sewer. As you recall, we had some deficiency with that over the next few years.
And we use that to pay water and sewer people, salaries of water and sewer.
We may well be able to do.
Can you use it for other funds?
I think you can use it to pay law enforcement.
Yes.
Well,
We won't get
I'm
it.
gonna throw something out.
But if I can say before we move on, Commissioner, we're only going to get half of that up front. Excuse me. Supposedly by the end of June, and the other half will come next year.
Was it 525? Is that what it was?
545, and they'll come by the end of June, and then the other will come in 2 years.
Are you talking about the
Maximum.
American Rescue Plan?
Yes.
That's, we listened to it the other day, and it was more, you could do it a lot for water and sewer infrastructure. They did have something in there for like hazard pay, if you had did that with COVID and all that. But me and Kim listened to it, and it would have been for us, water and sewer infrastructure.
That could be
We need
used.
12 million for that.
Well, that could be used to cover the portions of the salaries for the people that get paid out of it. So the thirds, right? Or is that correct?
I'm not sure.
I mean, so
because
you
there's still they're still up in the air with that. They come out with different guidelines all the time.
Waiting to be able to say that the guidance is still forthcoming. I wouldn't want to commit to tell you today we can do anything in particular other than infrastructure. So thank you, Commissioner, for letting me go.
I wanted to say a couple of things that I believe are relevant at this time. One, I looked at some of those salaries, comparatively speaking, Selma and other ones. I don't think that ours are bad. I mean, maybe I'm just out of it. But I don't think those salaries are that negative compared to Selma and these other ones that I consider to be now. I'm not saying that the comparison while they were wrong, but when you look at size of the towns comparable to Benson, I don't think our salary structure is that bad. That's my opinion. Another thing is, I'm asking you how you're going to sell this stuff to the people, because I'm telling you every single day, I have people coming in the office. I have people stopping me at church and everywhere else. They're very dissatisfied with what's going on right now. One, here we go, 3% increase in refuse collection. I heard that all day today about this refuse collection. One of them specifically said, why are we having to pay for 2 or 3 of these containers when they're throwing it all in the same truck? I don't know if that's true or not. I've heard other ones say that before. But one from Eastwood said that I watched them do it. So why can't I just have one container, throw all my mess in there and let them come dump it, and I'll pay you $7 and something? I have no response to that. Okay.
I can.
Well, let me do. All right. Stormwater fee. We're increasing it now. I'm assuming this proposal was to increase it 50 cents instead of $5, but nevertheless, I've never heard anybody explain to me what that is. What is it, Matt? Do you know what that is?
They put in the 250 in the last budget to create a fee to be able to help maintain the stormwater system, because we didn't have a funding. From what I understand, that we didn't have a funding source to be able to maintain the stormwater system.
That's why they didn't get that truck.
So we're imposing additional tax on people. This is a tax, is what it is. And because we can't accommodate the infrastructure, the stuff that people, have a right to, to look for, to expect, and we're talking about increasing salaries somewhere else, to the employees. That's number 2. Of course, I've always been a negative about this 50, so now we're jumping up to 57 cents. I hear from lenders all over the place. I can't believe Benson's tax base is 53 now. So, those are concerns that I have. I don't, one more thing, this load maintenance thing, whatever the heck that thing is, it's been a bear as far as I'm concerned. I had several of them bring their bills by. They wanted me to look at them. I looked at mine today. All right, now mine's, I'm not getting the credit, right, because we've removed that. There's no credit. What was $15 credit on the bill? All right, so now today I'm paying $11, right? Is everybody know what I'm talking about? Am I right? $11.50. Okay, $11.50. All right. Then I talked with somebody who didn't have load maintenance. They were paying $26 and something. What do I? Okay, so and they're still paying for load maintenance. If we've eliminated it, why are they still paying it? I don't have an explanation for that. Somewhere we need to disseminate some information to try to explain that. Well, if there is an explanation for it, I don't know what it is.
I think, yeah, the people that did not have it with the 30 and the people did, I think it was a happy medium that was discussed upon.
Last time.
But does it go to 0?
Well, no, it's going by $18.
Those that
Well,
were
if we
paying,
eliminate the program, why is it 0?
We're talking about the base fee.
I got $8 for the base.
I can answer that one. Those that had the $30 full charge but do not have load management, this will come down $8. Those that have load management, definitely change $8. Never go up. Because they're getting a service that costs the town $30 to deliver the service to.
They don't get the refund.
They don't get the refund. They're not taking the whole refund back.
It's $180, $180. But I agree with Jim. We need to get this information out to people, because there could be some dramatic changes in July 1st. Because if you look at these fee schedules, there is a tremendous number of changes.
Well, I'm definitely for that, but I'm for lowering anything we can lower on the people. I think they'll overburden, and I'll just say this, I don't know who's negotiating or dealing directly with refuse collection and all of that, but I mean, I'm not just hearing it from the individuals, I'm hearing it from people on board, so they're witnessing it. So why is the necessity to have these 3 and 4 canisters out there if they're dumping it all the same?
I can respond to that question if I may, Commissioner. I have a note at my desk to revisit that trash contract as soon as we can. We're not getting the service that we contract with throughout the town every week. And so it's,
According to the budget, the garbage fee, and I'm assuming that's waste management, is increasing from $400,745 and is going up $489,000. Is that correct?
that's a part of our contract.
How long is that contract?
100% taxes.
So,
To the price index adjustment.
and so I wasn't intending to talk about that particular one this meeting. However, I do want to talk with you at some point about what we can do about that contract with these people because they're not delivering. Every day, every week, especially in the last 2 months, we have been getting calls on municipal blocks. It's happening on my block. I know it. The trucks, bringing hydraulic fluid all through town. Again, the commissioners comment about doing everything in one truck. When we first started with them, I had one of my neighbors ask me why she's cleaning out plastic jugs and stuff, and they put the recycling with the glass. I understand that. So I think that we do need to revisit that trash contract. As far as stormwater is concerned, we need to be able to fix this infrastructure so that we don't get the backups that we do when we get such heavy rains. Whether it be over there by TNT, we get further down how they do a rain back here by Rise, or whatever. One lady spoke to the public earlier. We have so many places around town that back up because our stormwater system is not where it could be. And I remember as a board member that the board back some years ago had decided that it was more prudent for us as citizens to pay for what we get. That's why the electric fee went up the way it did. And road management was supposed to be a kind of a reward, if I can say it that way, for using a different technology. But we're back to square one with that by having to take them out. But now I think you all might have seen the email about the issue with getting some of them out of the houses or whatever they show. It's there not today. So we're inundated with a lot of situations that we have to deal with. Stormwater, the 57-cent tax that I'm giving to you is really a wash when you think about the fact that the county is dropping 2 cents. We raise it up 2 cents, it's really a wash. But it will fund some of the initiatives that we have in what I consider to be a forward-thinking budget here to address the needs of the town. I didn't mean to cut you off, Commissioner.
Yeah, that's all right. I just, I disagree with you about it being a wash because I think that was a period. So, maybe 2% we'll take away from it. It's a wash. It's okay. That would make them out. So just, I'm not sure that's a good reason. Say, the other question I have, and I know I don't want to take us down too many rabbit holes. Explain to me again, I know I've asked y'all this before, y'all told me and I'm old, I forgot. Why is there a negative fund balance in general fund, zero in water, sewer, and $100,000 negative fund balance in
That is set aside.
what that mean?
It's a reserve.
That's not a reserve. Our reserve fund is not negative 200. It says reserve fund balance, negative $200,200. General fund. Reserve fund balance on electric fund negative 100,000.
I thought we were always in red in the electric fund. I didn't think we were ever, I thought we were always negative.
So that means we have a reserve fund that's negative in general fund.
For the coal.
I bet that's what that.
Okay.
I think it's 200,000.
They're taking that out of the fund balance to make the budget balance is what they're trying to do. Is that
Or
correct?
like,
Oh, okay.
Not quite that way,
So we gotta take 300,000 out of fund balance. Make this about, that's about.
I think the 200 that you see is the additional street pay. Is that correct?
yes.
That's gotta come from somewhere.
Yeah, we agreed to take the 200,000 out of fund balance to transfer to street pay.
So we're still pulling out to make it whole. So it, for projects,
So
for
we
approved
gonna get
projects.
it back
Yeah,
somewhere.
to approve the project.
To make it $500,000.
Yeah,
That's right.
Somebody's gonna pay us back 200,000.
No,
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 So
we're
just taking
pulling,
it out of fund
we're
balance.
taking, we have already approved it, we're approving to take that out of our savings account to pay for street paving. And then electrical, we're approving to take 100,000 out of our savings account in electrical to pay for coal.
So what I'm saying is that fund balance is gonna go down, in our new budget, fund balance will go down 300,000.
No.
That's the math.
So from what I understand, we project what we're gonna take out at the beginning of the year and what we actually take out is at the end of the year. So we're projecting to take 100,000, we're projecting to take $300,000, $200 out. But at the end of the year, depending on if we make more revenue, then we don't have to take as much.
out of two different fund balance.
So
If we break
we're
even, if we take in
budgeting
the
to
same-
take it out,
If we
yes.
take in the same revenue, we're gonna be $300,000.
Yes, and if we take in less revenue, we're gonna be more. No, that's exactly right.
The other question I have is my question. I just, for my own benefit, I'm worried about the lady. She didn't do it in such an organized way. What happens? Does she have recourse if they build if something's built and all of a sudden her yard is 3 feet of water every time it rains?
It's against the law.
That would be, property owner issues that we hash out in court.
Okay, yeah, what's the question, if somebody builds something that pushes water on their neighbor, it's a private nuisance act.
Okay, that's something that she would have to deal with the developers of that. If that is passed and that happened,
They would name everybody that approved.
she would have recourse with us.
Yes.
Then government and community. They could try to sue,
They would try to sue anybody that approved.
but it would be the person that caused the problem that would have to pay.
Right.
And that's a hard case to prove without, whether or not the water can go anyway.
Well, if it didn't, and if it wasn't ever, and then it was, and then they built it and it was, that'd be like $2 million.
And much engineers report arguments.
Yeah, that's all that.
So if I can address fund balance just a little bit more. Overall fund balance likely be 20% this year. Just based on net positions that you see this.
So we're not going way negative, we're still,
No,
there's
we're
good
still
shape.
very good. Net positions are very, very good.
If they're that good, could we balance the budget with it and still include the market analysis in the salary without raising the tax?
They're not, that tightly connected because all the other revenue sources would help with all the expenses included. So it's not a one-for-one process.
And say that again often, because I thought he asked, can we take the money out of fund balance, pay salaries and good news? Is that what that?
I don't think you want to do that.
I don't want to do that. I'm just saying, is there other ways that we can decrease the budget? Well, I mean,
Now-
we've got capital outlay of $200,000 in water and sewer, which I know we need, but potentially we're going to get money for that. Potentially, I know you can't count on that, but potentially. And so I'm asking you, is there fluff in this budget where we're looking at a 2-cent increase on fire if we approve it? Harnett County approved it today. Am I correct in saying that? Harnett County approved the 2% fire increase today to cover our 2 firemen. We have to decide whether we're going to. It goes to Johnston County. Answer that question. Does it go to Johnston County? Thursday, it goes to Johnston County for the fire tax. So, what I asked you to do the other day was I said, bring me a budget that has a 2-cent increase and a budget that has a no-cent increase and take the fire tax out and show me a balanced budget either way and tell me what we can cut. Because if we can't afford the 2-cent or the 4-cent or any kind of increase, then we've got to find where we can cut it. And what I've seen is we've not done anything but taking the same pot of money and just shifting it around, which in my opinion, it doesn't solve any of the issues. It doesn't solve the pay increases. It doesn't solve balancing the tax increase. If you don't want that, it doesn't solve anything. All we're doing is we're getting the same number at the end of the day and just moving money.
You know, I think the same thing. I think the same thing. I disagree with some of our board esteemed colleagues that believe in all across the board tax. Salary increase. I believe we should use that increase to keep people. And, the people that aren't key people, I have no problem with them. I'm not saying that I have people in my office that are key people and people that are not. I need to keep my key people.
Any employer has to agree at some point in time that we're going to be a stepping stone. We are a small municipality. We're going to be a stepping stone. And the key, the way that it works is you keep the key people in place to train the people so that we constantly have turnover. When they come in, they train. We lose the people to train, then we've got nothing.
You know, I totally agree. I think we need to make sure if we are trying to be the person, I don't mean to pick on the police department, but we can't ever be the police department that they're not going to go to Clayton and then to Garner and then to Raleigh and then to Charlotte and then to Atlanta and then to London and then to Paris and then to Rome. You know, they're going to keep moving up. I get that. So I think we need, in that example, to have our key people being the best trainers as possible and almost present ourselves as the stepping stone lane where we take our role that's presented to us and make lemonade out of the lemon. So I'm not saying that directly about the police department. I'm saying that about every department. If the linemen are going to move on to Garner and make $1 zillion, we just got to be the training there. We got to keep training linemen.
Well, when I talked with my staff today, we have decided that it's best to mirror the police department's model, how to have people progress through the various positions within the department. What all that would take, whether it be certifications, whether it be time and services. So,
Let me tell you what I see as the reality. We keep monkeying around with the budget. Don't know where we really want to go. And if we keep doing that, we've got some people that are going to leave here. And you can say, well, allow them go, but you can't say that. If we lose those 3 people, we're going to lose the trainers that we need to bring in people that can help with the additional work that's being brought in with these houses that's being built and the construction that's going to go on. But I think there's a way that we can take the money that we have and solve the problems at the same time. Come with a budget that's balanced. But we can't ignore the fact that we could lose some people right quick. I guess I sat over there and listened when the people came up to the microphone and talked. And one of the people in there I wanted to go ask the question, and I did. And I said, who's calling you about wanting to go to work? And he told me. And he's the guy that hasn't even got his license yet. And they're trying to hire him. And there's people people everywhere now. And the good ones we're going to lose if we keep horsing around with it. But we got to figure out what the budget that we want, that we live with, and what salary we live with, and get it done. We went 2 years with a loss in the water and sewer. gave us a black eye in Raleigh. If we don't have a budget July 1st, we will have a big black eye in Raleigh. Won't be able to do anything without somebody saying, okay. And you know what? We're in the hole right now with sewer to a certain extent. We're on the, using the Raleigh numbers, we're in trouble, but if you look at what the reality is, we're not in trouble with sewer. We still got lots of capacity if you don't have a big rain. But we need to settle this because we've only got 3-4 weeks to get this done and get it approved. We got a meeting on the 23rd. Supposedly, that's going to be approval time.
Ladies and gentlemen, the task that I see is to understand that times have changed drastically. It is a employees market right now. Centralized email today in the New York Times article talking about the leverage that employees have these days. Whether we agree or not, it's out there. I made every attempt not to focus on salaries this evening because we have a balanced budget that is workable, that is reasonable, in my opinion, and that will serve this town well. When it comes to the trash collectors and whether or not we want road management switches, that's the day-to-day stuff that our people take care of. We get calls upstairs, 2 or 3 people have to respond one way or another. Sometimes it makes it to my desk and sometimes not. When it makes it to my desk, I need to go out and talk to somebody. And our community is becoming more and more demanding, both in terms of citizens that have been here 20, 30, 40 years, and the ones that are coming in. It's like a gentleman was talking a little while ago, just moving in February. But what kind of services are we going to be able to deliver?
I think that's a good question. Is to increase taxes or cut services. What I think is, I don't think I have the ability to make that decision. You know, I'm happy to but I don't understand why we don't get a feel more than an informal feel for why we put it in the electric bill to do it. We have this issue. Would you rather have us increase taxes or try to reduce services and have people vote and say, get their responses? 90%, 70% say want to increase services, increase taxes. They say I want to cut services, and they might say that, and at least they understand it. A lot of times, the goal is not to do extra, do A or B, it's to make people choose it themselves. And that's the thing that I'm not sure. Being inside the bubble, y'all and me being inside the bubble too, I'm not sure I can see the bubble. I'm not sure I can see what people would say.
I think we've already cut services here. I think a few years ago when we decided to do away with our own employees getting garbage and refuse, so we decided because we wanted to save $1, we went to a contract. Now we're suffering because of it, because the cost of the contract has gotten up to where we were paying what we were paying our employees. We can control our employees. We cannot control the contract. So I think the issue with me is, again, we're playing the clamshell game. I don't see this fixing the problem. I'm more apt, if we're going to go with a tax increase, to go back to the budget that was there 3 years ago. And let's do the salary adjustments with some meaning behind them instead of do a 4% increase. If we're not going to do the 4% increase and we don't want to raise salaries, we need to start from that budget and say, okay, these are the employees that were getting that increase because of that market salary. Reduce it to where it's manageable. And I think that's the only way that we're going to be able to, and I'm going to be able to reach an agreement here. I would argue the fact, and I know it's the same thing, we are one of the cheapest in the county on tax rates. We just cut 3 cents off 2 years ago when the county dropped 2 and we dropped a penny. We're at 53 right now. Selma's at 57. Clayton's at 57. I had it all pulled up here. We're going to 55. Where are we at? 53 right now? 53? Right. So we're going to 55 right now because of the fire department. It's the cost of doing business. And I understand it's harder on people with budgets, but I'm on a budget too to some extent. But I'll tell you this, I would whole much rather pay and get what the hell I want than not pay and have to deal with stupid trash cans every day. I mean, that's just the way I look at it. I think that's the way of the future. I think we've got to start as a board. I sat there tonight and I kept my mouth shut. Can I talk now? The reason we have congestion on Brockton Street is because this board sat here 3 years ago and we folded over a motion and we put a dead-end cul-de-sac on the street that should have went to 301. That's the reason we created that congestion. Not that developer, not any builder out there. We did it because we were weak in the spine. And I can tell you, they can vote me out in November, but at the end of the day, we've got to start making logical. She is a whole lot smarter than I am on planning. And time after time, she stands up there and says, I've got a master's degree. This is going to keep us out of court. And we turn them down. And I'm okay with that if that's what we're going to do, but I'm just going to tell you, I won't sit in court beside you, but the best manager, and I'm trying to help you because I want to see you succeed, the best manager is supported by the smartest people. And we need to afford the smartest people. The reason I'm successful on Main Street is because everybody I hire is a hell of a lot smarter than I am. And that's the way I look at it. And if we don't keep those people, we've got a manager with, excuse my French, who doesn't have a whole lot of experience and a whole lot of staff that don't have any experience. And so if you want to keep the taxes where they are, that's fine. I want to look at you and I want to look at the smart staff. I'm going to say, tell us where to put the money. I don't care. I don't care what everybody's salary is. That's so below us in the weeds that we don't even worry about it. I mean, there should be a 0-cent tax increase budget. This is what we can do with 0 cent. There should be a 2-cent tax increase budget. This is what we can do with plus 2%, and this is what we can do with plus 4% if we add the fire department. And we should make a decision. They're a whole lot smarter at salaries than I am. Just like my staff that hires for me is a whole lot smarter at salaries than I am. I just that's the only way I know how to do it. And I think we're arguing over people getting a raise because of who the people are, and we're not looking at the positions. The positions pay what they do. I make more than the fire chief driving a fire truck, and I have zero responsibility. Is that why? It's because I go to Wake County. And his fireman that he hires in a year is going to go to Wake County too. So we're going to have to hire another young person to come and drive his truck, and he's going to have to be there in front.
But you're making the point that we can't ever, we're chasing the cat's tail, you never catch.
That's right. You're exactly
So
right.
what if I would throw a bunch of tax money at that? You know, that's what I'm saying. You know, throw more tax money at it, don't do anything different.
How many holes have you got in the police department right now? How many applicants do you get when you put it out? That's why. That's why. And every municipality I've worked for has done pay studies every 4 years on different departments. The problem is the previous boards didn't do anything to help the salaries. And so we are stuck in a bad part because we're trying to fix it across the town. And that is way too big. And that's the reason we're looking at a tax increase. We should have been looking 3 years ago at the police department. I believe we did. I believe we did raise the police department 3 years ago. And then the next year we should have raised public works. And then the next year we did the lineman. And then there needs to be a program and a plan, and nobody here put one together.
And I think
that
is the only.
That was the point I made.
That's right.
If I could interject at this point.
So,
and I may have said it, maybe not emphatically enough, that the horses out the bone already. However, we do realize we got to be different. So we talked today with Chief, and we got the model that all of our departments are going to follow. We won't be able to get it started until July 1. What does that do for us? I mean, we're still behind the eight ball. But at least we started doing something. I sometimes am way too cautious, way too conservative. However, my staff is very forward thinking, very smart. I rely on their expertise. My public works, my public utilities director tells me that in 3 months we're going to need another body because we got this, and that coming up. If we need to be able to deliver services to water, sewer, whatever. And I take him at his word because he's had the experience. He is the expert. Here's where I am. I'm at the point where I need to fix it all right now. The things that have not been fixed over the years. And so it's hard for me to hear that we can't do it. When in actuality, we must. If we don't, we'll be that much harder. I'm willing to drop the 4%. I'm willing to go back to the first proposal. But I need to hear from you. That's what you want to do.
Well, let me ask you, because I forgot what the first proposal was, and if it's what I think it is, I won't vote for that number. But let me ask you something. And I know what you're saying, you're trying to bring departments into line with their grades, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What would happen if we took one department at the time and worked on it this year for the budget, for this spatial year? Next year, take another department, bring them up. But let's not try to do everybody at one time. Now, the police department is comparable, should be comparable, because I remember we've been giving them things that, they should be comfortable with. So, if we go and say this year we work on the electric department, or whatever department you choose to do, and start bringing them into line. Next year, take another facility, start bringing them in line. Because you can't do all this stuff at one time. I mean, that's just a suggestion.
Yeah. I'm hearing the other departments in the back of my mind, they're saying, how come them and not?
Well, because somebody somewhere, you got to start somewhere, and it's just the one you pick to choose to.
My apologies to you, Commissioner Neighbors, that I wasn't able to bring those other two choices.
Well, we didn't meet till Thursday, I understand. So the only thing I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna put this out there, and I'm gonna leave it there. I didn't get a evaluation and a raise this year, and I worked for municipality. But I'm gonna tell you what we did, because all of us worked extra hours for COVID. That's why I've not been in meetings. That's why I've been on Zoom, because I'm not able to take vacation to keep here. But I can tell you what they did do. They took the COVID money that they got and they gave it to the employees. And I've gotten a bonus every month that I've gone to work, because they know that I don't have to go to work, because I can go home and make more than what they're paying me to work. And that's every employee that's on that sheet right now. And I'm telling you, right now, we are in as good a position we are right now is because they became dynamic and they put Facebook videos of the library on Facebook, and they went and they collected those electrical fees that weren't paid, and they spent overtime and hours making those phone calls, and they should be rewarded. And I don't care how you do it. I don't care if you do a bonus. I don't care if you do a raise, but they should be rewarded, or else they're going to be gone. Because every time they sit here and listen to us squabble like a bunch of damn youngins, they're sitting here and saying we don't have board support. And I don't believe that. And if you don't support your employees, then you ought not be sitting here. That's just the way I need to.
So what are you saying? Give them a bonus and just disregard the thing?
I'm saying find the money to put it in the people who need it and be creative. Think out of the box. Give some of them a bonus for the year and say, hey, thanks for sticking with us and thanks for working hard. We don't have to do salary adjustments that affect the ongoing budget. We can do a one-time thing to some of the employees to say thank you. And it's none of each other's employees what other employees are getting. So hopefully they're not talking about that. But I'm just saying that you know who are the most key employees in this town. And I don't want to say that. I want to say that every employee for this town is key, but you know who breaks their back and who keeps the wheel moving. We better look after that wheel.
So we can't just deal with something not there for everybody.
Absolutely you can. Absolutely you can.
How is that?
How is that? Because if I have somebody that runs a shovel for me today, I pay him to run a shovel. His job ain't changed at all with the code. If I need to pay the person that tells him where to dig, and they don't deserve the same raise. I'm sorry, they don't. They are paid based on their performance. Some employees are really good. Some employees come in here and they're a standard employee and they work 40 hours a week and they clock in at 8:30 and they go home. And some employees sit here till 8 o'clock at night and listen to us squabble. And I would tell you that to me, as a private employer, would whole much rather pay more money to the ones that spend overtime and put more into the organization and the ones that clock in and clock out. There is no fair in the world. Nobody. The only place I've ever seen the fair is in the school system. And that's why the school system's not good.
Not paid.
It's not fair.
Well,
I mean,
okay. And the raises there.
I'm saying, if you choose employees, I can see, I'm just like.
I'm gonna say we can't because they're his employees.
Right, I understand it, but I'm not gonna agree with what you're saying, I'm gonna tell you why.
Okay.
Because you got everybody working so maybe if you wanna do that, give a bonus plan with certain ranges, we'll give everybody something. I mean, really.
The other thing too is, that
You
maybe I
can't just
misunderstood
give
you.
all and not one.
You said they won't know what everybody makes. This is not a business, this is a government agency. They explicitly told me that
That's
last
true.
time.
That's true.
So everybody.
But if they get a bonus, they wouldn't know particularly what the bonus is.
Well, you shouldn't discuss the salary anyway, you get fired, you won't see that. You shouldn't discuss it.
And they said that the government not a business.
It's all covered.
But I'm telling you, I'm
But you
telling
give a
you,
bonus,
if we-
everybody knows
School
how much.
system got overloaded during the problem situation. They should really get bonuses.
Thank you.
they're getting it right now by working summer school.
For the second job, I guess, I don't know, I'm just saying. You know,
Work for it, you ain't.
But
There's a lot of
the one
people
thing
who-
is, you're saying you have no business sitting here if you're not gonna support your employees. The reason you're sitting here is because those people that are seeing what you're giving to these employees elected you.
That's right. That's right. That's
So,
exactly
and they're
right.
paying taxes.
So, and
Let's decide what we're gonna do.
I just tell you, I think that we need to look after. I think we need to get back into the top of the tree because the salaries and the positions is his job. It's his job to make those
So the
decisions.
taxes is our job.
That's right. So I'm telling you, bring me a budget. If you don't want to raise the taxes, bring me a budget and take care of your people and bring me a balanced budget that doesn't include a tax increase. You say it can't be done, then I reckon we'll sit here and argue about it until January. I don't know what to do.
Can we do that?
LGC won't like it, you can argue that one.
Can we do that tax increase?
You
Say that one more time.
It's gonna affect us
Something else is gonna happen.
It's gonna affect us if you do it that way, right? Down the road, it's not now.
Right.
I think raising taxes in this, I'm of the persuasion, I'm not a tax raising person. I'm not that, that's not my zoo animal I am. But, I know that if we do it, we have to, I personally think, and it's just me, maybe nobody else thinks it, I think we have to sell it better to the public. Because they're the ones that's getting the tax. We're not, we're just putting it on. And, you need to let them know in advance. I would, if there was a budget that didn't raise taxes, I'd be all over it.
I think they heard that already, Commissioner. That emboldened paragraph in the first page. I think.
What say you, Fred?
Mayor, I believe I've said, excuse me. What was that? Do what the people said. I brought the 4%, but let me share with you my thinking about that. I brought the 4% after hearing Mr. Graham mentioned 6. 6 was too high. Change it from what was brought the first time. It's one reason. When I tried 4%, it was palatable to me, but the money didn't change much. If it changed $100, I'd be surprised. So when it came to finishing up this budget sheet here, that was forwarded to me at board instruction, I didn't do it alone. I had a decision to make, and that is, I go in and gerrymander these numbers so much so, we don't know what the hell we got. Or to make the adjustments based on the increased revenue from the fire department, that we make the numbers match on this. Thanks to the mayor, he's pointed out a couple that didn't match. Do I bring to you something that is balanced, that trying to do a lot at once. I understand that's a national team. I sat in sitting in that. I remember many a night. I wouldn't say yes to a particular proposal, but it had to be done. That's why it has to be done. We don't. We got to go for the whole.
So as far as the 4% increase that is mentioned, some could get 4 and some could get 4% along with an adjustment. Or it's either or.
Either or.
It's either or.
There are a couple there that, one in the police department, whose salary was too low for his right. So maybe adjustment.
And you won't get the 4%, we'll just get the adjustment.
Just get the adjustment. In that spreadsheet I gave you last time, the fiscal years 1, 2, and 3, I only wanted you to look at the first column. The other two are an idea of a plan. It really wasn't a plan, but we started here, we can go there and go there if the board wanted to. I didn't believe that was the best fix. So we used the Band-Aid analogy that Commissioner Bean used last time around. You pull that thing off, and you got to stay with this for a while, because it's not going to fix the problem. And so,
I'm gonna say, just to put, I want to make sure everybody puts this in perspective based on our meeting we had. I'm assuming, and maybe I'm assuming wrong, so y'all please correct me, that everybody here gave the chief the permission to go ask for the 2 employees to the other 2 boards. So we're all okay with 2-cent increase to get the 2 firemen. Are we okay with that? Because I felt like we were when we sent. Did everybody agree? So we're arguing over 2 more cents, and I understand that it's a tax increase. Don't you? One thing here is $30,000. We're arguing over $60,000 on a $13 million budget.
We're not arguing over 6 cents, we're arguing people. People in election. That's what we're arguing.
Well, then I ask you, what services do you want to cut to save $60,000? What do you want to give up?
I'm not saying anything. I'm fine to pay it. I'm a high taxpayer and I don't mind paying. I don't mind anything. But I think that there's a lot of people out there that are going to mind. They don't mind it a lot. They're going to tell me the ways that y'all are going to control the
it's good.
Back to the next page.
Yeah, Mike, you want to write us all up. I don't mean this ugly. I'm the youngest one on this board, and I'm the only one that has really small kids on this thing. Really small kids. William is willing to pay more in taxes, and I'm a high taxpayer too because I own property too, so that my kids have a future in this town, and so that every part of this town doesn't look like a bad section of town, and that we have paved streets, and that every street, if we don't do what we're supposed to do, in 5 years, Main Street is going to look like Woodall Street. Well, not Main Street, that's the Church Street is going to look like Woodall Street does right now. They're exactly right. I've got to get in the middle of the lane, and I'm still getting potholes going down Woodall Street. And it's not just that street; it's every street in this town. If you want your children to stay here and live here, you've got to make it nice enough for them to want to be here. And that's just the way it is. Because today's generation is not happy with what is here. Because people that are here do not take care of what is here. And that's where we're at.
And so it's gone on for so long that we find ourselves in this dilemma now. Let's hit it with a hammer.
If you want to move to the town of Benson, you either move to the outskirts, and yours, I don't mean outskirts as in out of town, but where you are, or you live in town in a dump and you spend a lot of money to fix it up. Because we don't have new housing. Because we can't improve new housing because of infrastructure and schools and everything else. Because nobody's ever spent money for us to put new housing up.
I can share a brief story with you about the situation that happened in the last couple of 3 days. Gentleman from Lincoln in the subdivision where they're building back over the block, where this subdivision tonight going to come in behind him. He's got a field behind him, and Man Street comes in back behind his house. But he had a problem. He's had a problem, running problem, he told me, for years. water coming across his land and washing out the back of his yard. And when I heard about that, I mentioned it to Tim, I read the email. I decided I was going to go out there and take a look at what he was talking about. I wanted to see for myself. He showed me, his wife showed me, we talked 45 minutes out there, and he gave me some history as to what was going on, etc. By the time I had lunch and came back to my desk, Tim had been out there. Tim talked to the man and let him know what he was going to do to solve his problem that he's been having for years. Now, when I came back and emailed Tim and let him know that I've been out there talking to him, he said, I thought I was supposed to go. I said, that's fine. That man needs to know that his problem is being taken care of and will be done now, as opposed to when we get somebody that can go out there. We're going to get to that point where we can't deliver that kind of service. Folks fuss us out about the trash. You're right. I didn't get mine recycled. I picked up one cycle come around. I had to wait for the next one. But it's because the employees have the leverage and they don't have to work for this money. They go somewhere else and they move. Well, for us, we don't be in the same position. Our employees can go somewhere else because they can make more money, but they don't think they care about it.
What do you want to do, Fred?
I'd like to do, Mayor, to get this board's approval to pass this budget. We haven't even got to the fee schedule, et cetera. That's coming up next month in line. And there are some increases there. We've got to have a situation where people are paying for the service they get, but then we got to be able to deliver the service. If we're going to deliver the service, that means we're going to need people here to do it. And we do it well, and with expertise.
I didn't hear anything.
Fred, with all due respect, I appreciate the budget, but I will not vote for 4% off the water rates. I don't think it fixes that problem. But I'm okay with the tax increase. I'm okay with the budget that we presented 3 weeks ago.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Clarification, just to make sure I understand, you're okay with 13% tax increase? I mean, 30% salary increase? Just like what's the reason?
I'm okay with whatever it takes for us to keep the quality of employees that we have.
Where would we get that money from? Okay, $300,000 tax increase, that's 10 cents. You raise taxes 10 cents?
Did I know I didn't say that?
So that's 30,000 a penny. So to get 300,000.
We had a balanced budget.
I'm just saying, where's the money coming from?
The problem
From the
is,
revenue.
is the total amount of salaries was coming out of 3 different funds. So the raises on the electrical fund and the water and sewer fund basically ain't calculated into these tax rates.
And fire engineers and fire tax.
Firemen and the fire tax.
Yes, each department necessarily so needs to be self-sustaining. We can bring in the revenues, we can take care of all of their expenses, everything from salaries to cleaning materials for the buildings, etc. And that's what you have before.
We just talked about the stormwater fee, and you're exactly right, that's a tax. But the reason we had to impose a fee is because we would never raise the tax to cover the cost. So we got to raise the fees, and we got to raise the tax.
I'm okay with raising the fees. I'll vote to raise the fees right now. I'm making a choice to raise taxes.
If that's the case, then none of the budgets are going to tax. We go back to drawing.
They say you could do it without taxes. They said that probably.
To do a little bit of chopping, but that's what the board wants.
All right, how many people on the board accept the tax increase.
Let me ask you this, if you do the tax increase, how much good is it? If you do tax, if you do tax increase, then what was the, which budget as far as your salary, is the, are we going with the old plan or
Tax
4%
increase
without the tax?
will be spread across the general fund tax. Different departments. The fire, it's not affected in the law. General fund. And so, and I'm stammering a little bit because I need to make a point that little bit of tax isn't going to take care of a whole lot. But it needs to be there to supplement other revenues, to take care of the services that we provide, as well as pay our employees. And so, I agree to it.
How many people accept the tax increase? Hold your hands up. So we got 2. So how much of the tax increase are you gonna take off?
I think the company just made the point that it's only $60,000. I think we can find $60,000 from somewhere else or cut $60,000 some way from the entire budget. Rather than it's only $60,000. I hear y'all making the point. I get that. Y'all selling you the, I get that. But you just said in one hand it's only $60,000 tax increase. It's only $60,000 cut budget too. So that's not much
I thought it was
service.
$80,000 per point.
It's
$30,000 per point.
29,600 used to be, and now it's y'all close to 30,000.
We're estimating. I don't know exactly what it's an estimate. I don't know exactly what it's. If we can cut the $60,000 out of the budget and still look after the employees,
So if you look after him, is it gonna be, so, you know, the previous one, 13%, 14%, 16%,
So what were we gonna have to raise the budget when it was gonna be 13%?
same tax. That's what we're playing the playing game. We're just taking the ball and putting it under a different cup. We're gonna change the money.
You take 6,000, put it over the cup.
Throw it off the table. If we take the 2 cent out, just do the 2 cent increase for the fire tax. Is that what we're all agreeing on? Or are you saying you want to take the whole 4 cent off, and then you're looking at?
Or if you have my brothers, I'd rather not raise taxes, but if you gotta do it, what we gotta do, y'all say we gotta do it, and I don't understand that, so I'm gonna go with it. But I understand the 6,000 with the general tax. And that's,
If you look at it like that, and I know you said a while ago it's not a wash, if we were to raise it 2 cents for the fire tax and the county do what they're supposed to do and they reduce it 2 more cents, then theoretically it would cost the taxpayer any more money. If we reduce 2 cents and then they reduce 2 cents, theoretically the taxpayer will be saving money. And if you're okay with that, that's fine. But I'm just throwing that out there for you to talk.
if you're asking me, am I okay with taxpayers having money, yes, I am.
I've been talking about keeping it at 53.
In my, just me, I can live with a 55 and 2% fire tax. I'd rather find a way to take that third rail of $60,000 out of somewhere else. And I still think we could give raises to key people. We just, let's say it's 3.5%, not 4%. Some number, but $60,000, we should have found $60,000 and not have to tell them, walk down the street and say, yeah, raise your tax. And then say, but we don't, is to give you more services. But we can't do that because we can't compete with anybody else, so that's not gonna work for us either. So we're just raising the taxes for the hell of it. I'm saying that's, that's what I'm saying.
If we do a 2 cent increase, we can say it's to give you a full-time fire department, 24 hours, 7 days a week.
That's a valid thing. What are you gonna say for 2 cents, rental fee.
What am I going to say? I'm going to say it's inflation, just like everything else inflates. Wood products more expensive, labor more expensive, construction more expensive, development more expensive, gas more expensive, education more expensive, cost of doing business more expensive. And that's why I ask you, what kind of service do you want to get? Because if he tells me that he needs to do the services, he's the manager. I'm looking at him to make that decision.
I think that.
Yeah, do you mind if I sit? Do you mind if I sit down? Thank you.
I think that that's a valid question, not a mean question, anything like that. I think people need to tell us that they want more services and let them decide.
They'll tell us in November.
We sure will tell you.
That's the only way we're going to do it. But they didn't line up here to talk about it tonight. They're not with the public hearing for them to talk about budget. Nobody better than that.
Nobody knows.
Thank you. To pay salaries.
And I get it. I agree with you. And I tell you, dude, I understand. It's not. People can go make more money other places. I get that. I know we're going to lose good people. I understand that totally. But again, we got it. And you know, again, the math of it, y'all are saying we need to. Again, it was 398,000 at one point. 398,000 is 13 cents the increase in tax. Without any other thing, y'all said y'all finding it somewhere else. Well, damn, find it somewhere else. You know, and so if you find it somewhere else, go and find it somewhere else. But if you're just going to take a tax increase, raising salaries that much, and add all them people that were added on that thing, $150,000 a week, it was going to be $398,000, which is 13 cents.
Also 5 new positions.
I just said that.
And I didn't do the budget, so I mean, I'm agreeing with you. I'm just telling you, I want to look after our people because I feel like as a board, we've not done it.
Fred, I think I've heard that, they want the 2 cents off of general fund tax. And to do something for the people that we're going to lose to get their salaries from the state. What else is it was said?
That at least one commissioner was okay with the fee increase. We got into those, that's all part of the budget season. Plan for the budget. It's all into the revenue numbers that we have.
So now we're looking at, raises only for key people, not everyone.
No, it'd
2
be,
cents. Still not taking taxes on it.
No, I thought I heard you say something about the key people. Did I not hear that? I believe you did.
Keep people.
That's what I would do. That's just one person. I would prioritize for key people and then let it go down to lower priority after that.
And I would argue that that's his job. We shouldn't be worried about who gets raises. He is our only employee. Every other employee is his. And so I would tell him to pay the people that support him and that he needs to be able to run the show. And I would leave that up to him. I think we just need to stay in the top of the trees and just figure out what we want to do about it. But and let him worry about how he spends it. If not, why we got to manage. I mean, this is the way if we're going to.
Then why are we discussing salaries then? We could then say that.
Well, I'll be honest, I don't think we ever should have got that list for salaries. I don't think we should have ever went over everybody's individual salaries. That's between him. He is running this department just like my office manager runs my office. I want you to give me a balanced budget and tell me what I've got to spend and what I've got to make, and then whatever she does with her employees, that's her business.
I agree with everything you said. And I think you're exactly right. And, we don't have 100.
That's what he did pay his salary.
Whoa. We got into this business when the town employees came up here and presented. That's when we got involved in it. You were here that night. We were here. And they were all fired away. That's when it came about.
It came about.
But it's about 11 o'clock now. I'm telling you, no good decisions made at this time of night. So we need to move on.
I agree.
This was brought up at the town board retreat when they did the pay study. They said that everybody was behind because nobody done a pay study, doesn't salary increases in the statute since 2015.
What about the fee schedule? They did.
Motion we approve.
Huh?
Motion we approve.
Okay, consider, purchase order over $10,000, Beasley Heat and Air. You got that in your packet.
Mayor, we still have a couple of other items. Beside the fee schedule,
Yeah, that's,
there was the capital improvement plan and the utility customer service policy. Commissioner Raymond wants to amend his motion to include that. All three of those.
did you make a motion?
I did. Why can't we amend it? Because we're already okay with that. I'll make it, y'all entertain with you.
I'm trying to find out, where are you?
Under old business,
Go
the
back on the-
consider approval.
It's the fee schedule, you got a copy of it last meeting. So you made a motion to approve the fee schedule,
Correct.
capital improvement, customer service policy.
I didn't make that motion yet.
Or you just did the fee schedule?
Okay, let's just, since he's got the motion to approve the fee schedule, can't we just, we'll just do them one at a time?
All right,
How about that?
all right, all in favor say aye. Opposed, no. All right, that was fast. Capital improvement plan. I entertain a motion for that.
This is a 5-year plan, ladies and gentlemen, for capital improvement. Such items as, split through a couple of items here. For construction purpose or major renovation of buildings, purchase of land, major landscaping project.
This is not a committed to the money, this is just.
No, this is just a plan
Plan.
to move forward.
I make the motion we approve the capital improvement.
All in favor say aye.
Now,
Opposed, no. Utility customer service policy.
That policy, excuse me, what we share with the public as they come in, new to the town. Applications for services and rates and fees, et cetera, are discussed here. How people go about having their electric bill on, how much it costs. We even have a solar section in here so that people will know how to deal with that. That is new in the plan. As a matter of fact, very timely. I just had an email just yesterday about what our solar policy is. This edition is right on time. Refunding policies and service fees, etc.
I make a motion that we approve.
All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. All right, consider approval of purchase orders over $10,000. Beasley heat and air.
Usually heat and air for the replacement of both of our AC units on the roof at Town Hall. Folks were sheltering in here earlier today for the reception that we had because one of the air conditioners is not working, the other one on the way out. Our auditorium, kitchen, and conference center certainly needs attention in terms of AC. We have a $25,520 cost from Beasley's Heating and Air. We'll ask the board to consider.
Make a motion to approve.
All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The electric.
Well, the next one is the electric, for supporting our department, the phase 3 of Cliffwood subdivision, for 80 hours of work for the electric crew at $372 per hour, coming to $29,760.
'Cause, 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 '
Where's the Cliffwood at?
Newport is over, behind me, down at the end of my street, at the church. You see all that construction that is going on
Is
down
the
there.
developer not responsible for those costs?
Um, so we gave us a proposal for that.
Says complete phase 3.
Town installs it. Not the developer, but they pay for it. to be installed.
So we're paying for the installation and we will be reimbursed for that by the developers.
No, I don't think that with this case with the electric, it's like the materials and things like that that have to go in, that the developers don't pay for that. When it comes to the installation of, transformers, underground, and all that kind of stuff. Because it has to be done by the electric department.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
You make a motion.
I did, I made a motion to approve.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Consider approval of the April financials.
We have the April financials in your packets. We're at the 83% mark where we should have revenues and expenses to meet that particular benchmark. And looking for my three-page deal here. So we have met that benchmark. It's sinking.
I'll entertain a motion.
If I can mention, this is what I was looking for, Mayor, that our revenues are 87.65%. Our revenues are 80.11%. So we're in good shape.
I make a motion that we approve.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no.
Resolution number 217/2021, building reuse grant program for the existing business building category. This is for the very global expansion over there, Hydro Chicopee Incorporated project. And the town will provide 5%, $1,200 to $12,500 of the building reuse program grant toward that project. Construction costs and so we ask that you approve this as well.
We pay them $12,500 and they pay us back for this. But this is a grant that we've got, $3.9 million. We have to pay 20% of it. So we're going to have a conference call next Friday week to get all the details put together. So they had to have this after the end by the 24th. So that's why we've got it up here. I'll entertain a motion. Hello.
Explain that to me one more time. We're paying $12,500 for a grant. And when we reimburse the grant is to cover what?
The 5%. The building. Towards the escalators. Wastewater. Very low. $3.9 million, $3,900,000 Chickadee's people are involved. I'll entertain a motion. We got to get this approved.
I'd like to approve, approve.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. Why the hell is everybody go to sleep?
So we move along with considering the approval of the roofing company moving forward on the USDA application for funding in regards to the mineral interceptor. This is one of many steps that we need to take to address our infrastructure needs, and the roofing company is more than able to help us get this funding. So, as we are
I make a motion that we approve.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no.
And this is more specific, that's for the mineral interceptor, which is kind of saying all of town. So we can meet the needs there and be able to address the economic development on the backside of town. All of that. Mayor, if I could move to the town manager report.
Yeah.
The Benson Arts Board is looking into dressing up that triangle at 50 and 27 splits with Main Street there. Tim, who's a part of DOT, designed that structure there. So the Arts Board is looking to put something out there and look forward to that. Also, Department of Cultural and Natural Resources is glad to extend our RF contract on the 2019-877, an additional 12 months, goes out in October of 2022, so that we can finish with this part. They send us a letter to grant us that extra time to get that done. It's based on that wet season that we had. And you see on the agenda all of the events coming up through the Chamber of Commerce. So that's all I have in my resume.
Town attorney.
Not a thing, this year.
I think they heard that.
All right, Max, do you think?
I don't know if I should do this or not, but since we have beaten it to death, I'm gonna take a stab at approving. Because we never did anything with that, right? We just threw that down and said, come back.
I think we went back to the drawing board.
We're gonna go back to drawing board away. So we gotta do it before July, so we're gonna.
I mean, if you want to approve 53 cents, that we just do.
One is we approve the 53 cents and 2 cent fire tax, and then let him work it out in salaries, do a salary increase where he can, where he thinks necessary, then finding the money for somewhere else to whatever he decides.
You gotta come back, you gotta prove it.
I'm just saying,
I'd like to have that up front so we know that we put the books together and put it in the hand.
You don't talk about that hour?
No.
So are you in agreement to approve his motion? 53 cents?
I would like to be able to bring that back to the board when it's approved.
You motion, you've got 53 plus the 2 cent fire.
We done, we committed to the 2 cent already, correct? Yeah, we already committed to Allen before, and it was pretty bad if we backed out of the 2 and we done got Hardy County to change theirs. So
That's the way we operate.
yeah.
That's where you messed up.
We think they got paying more than us.
You've seen it, we did the whole thing again.
That's a part of the budget's not passing the budget.
Yeah.
So, are you saying that we can pass the budget tonight? Yeah.
You might wait till the 23rd, because you know it's gonna change.
Yeah, if you pass it tonight, that'll be it.
That's it, you
That's
pass
That
it.
is your budget. You can't go back and change it.
Yeah.
I want to see all the figures before you
Yeah.
say it.
Have a meeting on June.
But is everybody in agreement that it's gonna be 53 cents?
No.
55, 55, I think. 53 plus 2.
Now I got one more thing that's important. I got one more thing that's important.
You got them on.
47, we'll take it right now.
And this is to you, Jerry, because you're involved in the scene. The man came to me today. And he shags. He's about 85 years old. He shags. He goes to Mother's Shags. He said, who do we need to talk to? Talk about getting the bricks in front of the road stage, not flatter so they can shag. He said you could do shag things there. People with shaggers need to come if they have flat dance floor thing out in the thing. I'm just saying it, I'm passing it on.
That's the only thing keeping Jerry off that floor.
Jerry, there it is.
All right, now, what do you understand your marching orders are?
I understand that we are the 3-cent property tax, plus the 2-cent fire, and that the salaries and adjustments will be put in our.
Does everybody agree with that?
Within a certain range now. I'm not.
Oh, yes, we're not going to bring it.
Within a certain range.
Again.
All right, anyway, Ben.
I'm good. I ain't got that.
Sally? Sally?
Everybody thinks that.
He just.
Told you, man, come 11 o'clock, you're gonna be talking.
Let me say one thing before we go. Listen for a minute. Tonight was the first time that we've gone through a public hearing that way. And I think that there may have been a confusion at the end as to what we were doing. And Aaron and I have talked about this many times, that it seems like every time we have a public hearing, something goes away. Trying to get it organized so that we don't have it. But we're going to get a reputation of being Mr. Note. I accept what the board does. I don't argue about that. But,
Where you gonna meet those findings of fact? If we do, we'll be Mr. Yes.
well, I'm not sure we should vote on them separately, is what I'm saying. You evaluate it separately, but you vote on it as a whole. And I think we got to think about that as to how we handle that.
Either way it's permissible, but doing it individually then creates a better record because somebody's probably going to challenge you.
Well, I got one last thing as well. I got called to a place this morning that I didn't want to. And what I saw laying there was a mattress on the sidewalk, liquor bottles in the windows, and needles around the edge of the parking lot. We've got vagrants in town. And I know that the police department is working on this. I had a detective over there today. But what I suggest to do with that, and I'm fixing to go to jail, is load them up in the police car in the back seat and take them between here and Dunn or here and Coates and unload them. Out in the middle of town, in the middle of the country.
Not put that mic.
But we have a problem. Police department, that's another one.
I spoke with the young lady.
What he said about 11 o'clock at night.
I spoke with the young lady. She suggested that.
That's a plan. Hit that switch.
We get mental health people involved. Oh. We're trying to follow up on that.
I entertain a motion to
And I'll
adjourn.
make that motion. I make a motion that we adjourn.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no.
Mayor. Okay, Mayor, you wanna go ahead and sign these so we can give them the hour? Okay.